devoted all of my adult life to this subject. I only debate with my equals. All others I teach.
Themselves to be beaten and brutalized and do nothing whatsoever to protect themselves. They are foolish. They should have the right to defend themselves against any attack made against them by anyone. If a dog is biting a black man, the black man should kill the dog. Whether the dog is a police dog, a hound dog, or any kind of dog. If a dog is sick on a black man, when that black man is doing nothing but trying to take advantage of what the government says is supposed to be his, then that black man should kill that dog or any two-legged dog who sicks the dog on.
Should other black men
follow the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, number one, don't believe in any form of integration, and believe that every mention of the word integration by whites, whether it be from the mouth of Kennedy on down to the mouth of the lowest, raggediest white liberal in the street who is beating it like involving himself in these integration efforts, if we believed in it, we would integrate, and we would fight anybody who got in our way or made any effort whatsoever to stop us from integrating. If we really believe that the law of the land, the Supreme Court, and other so-called judicial bodies were for real, when they talked about integration, we would integrate.
We were sitting around the dinner table, some students and people, and the question came to you both. Well, what is now? You guys may not believe in God or something.
I am married to an ex-nun, an ex-Roman Catholic nun. I drive her to church. 35 years we've been married, a few days ago, and I drive her to church on occasion. I'll go in and listen. I'll go to the mosque. I'll go to the Buddhist temple. I go to anybody's religion, because religion is a belief. Nobody has it. Now, you ask if I believe in God, you must first explain, because I met the guy that robbed my house, believed in God. He had a big cross on his chest when they caught him and down at the prison. He believed that didn't stop him from robbing my house. Believing in God don't make you good or bad. The Ku Klux Klan believe in God. The one thing that they say that they have established a religion to protect the name of Jesus. So the whole philosophy. Most of the people in the Bible Belt will cut your throat for being black. Did the Bible stop them from being racist? No. That doesn't mean a thing because you believe. You believe that your behavior are two different things. And people ask, you believe in God, you don't believe in God. So what's that mean? It doesn't mean I won't cut your throat.
Okay, but you said earlier that if we start paying black preachers tomorrow morning,
the church will close. How many of them come in to do volunteer work? It's a business. It's a salary people get out of it, whether it's Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, or what.
Christianity and religion as we know it is a business?
Big business is bigger than IT&T.
You get all kinds of breaks, tax breaks, and all kinds of privileges when you're the minister.
His salary's paid. You think the president is getting some big salary? He get the big salary of all. Do you think? No, let's face it. How many ministers you know doing it for free?
Okay, let's just drop.
10% tax. See how if people get buried. Name me the pastor in may come to the undertaker parlor and say, "You will not come into the cemetery."
I am your host, Due Diligence. And today, you see what the topic is white nationalism valid, right? And I believe that we can have a really constructive conversation. So like the comment on the screen says, come in and feel free to express yourself freely. You know, I want to give everybody, and not do me, everybody, they just do, right? I will not take offense to whatever position that you may hold. I want to have an honest conversation in good faith. And if you are able to do that, please hit the link, come in, say your piece, and, you know, go about your business. You know what I'm talking about? Because I believe this is the best way that we can progress the world, is to talk about the hard issues, right? To talk about the really, really hard issues, you know, and this is one of those issues, I believe, right? And I feel like we can get far pushing a note with this, and this is what we do on the principles, push the issue. You know what I'm talking about? Try to raise the general IQ of the world. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of what your position is, we're not here to, you know, down anybody for what they may believe. You know, we're here to, like, you know, just have an honest discussion and push the bar. With that being said, let's get into it. I want to read my little intro right quick, and it says, is white nationalism valid, right? The reason I want to have this conversation is because I believe it can really potentially be constructive and progressive. I believe if both sides take a moment to put themselves in each other's shoes, something great could happen. Furthermore, if we never have the good faith discussion, one thing we do know for sure is that things will remain the same, right? And I think we all agree that change is needed one way or the other. For myself, I have never really thought about white nationalism from the white perspective, only from the side of what it means for me and my people in a negative sense. But what about what it means for white people if they don't take an aggressive nationalistic perspective? So here we are. There's no better time than now to have the discussion. Welcome to the principles. Let's do this. So I have a guest today, you know, and he goes by the name of Generally Specific. Welcome, sir. Welcome. How are you today? I think I might have you muted. There you go.
I'm doing better than I deserve. How about yourself?
Same here. You know, I woke up and I was breathing this morning, so I didn't have too many complaints. I got some small ones, but, you know, I won't put them on you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
He ain't heavy. He's my brother, man. Come on, you can put it on me. What's up? Lay it on me, man. What's your complaints?
Yes. Oh, man, it ain't even worth complaining about. Like I told you, I woke up breathing, so the little small complaints I got, it ain't even worth expressing. You feel me? It's nothing. I'm here today, and we're going to have a great day, and we're going to have a great discussion, man. I feel it. I feel like it's going to be a great one. So let's jump right in it. Let's see what we got here. Let's come right up in here. Bam, bam. Let me know when you can see my screen.
I can see it. Is white nationalism valid as the query?
That is the topic, right?
Okay.
So let's go to the slide, right? So
Well, what do you mean by valid?
this we finna get to it, right? We finna get to it. What first of all, I want us to be clear on what actually white nationalism is, right? Because some people have different perspectives on what it might be. So let's just make sure that we're all on the same accord first, right? So it doesn't hurt to just go through the definitions. Let's do it. What is white nationalism? The belief that white people should maintain a white identity and have a national or political system primarily for the benefit of white people, often includes opposition to immigration, multiculturalism, and diversity initiatives. That is generally what white nationalism means. Do you agree with that? Generally specific.
It's like white nationalists believe that white people are inherently superior, or people from all other racial and ethnic groups. To all people of other race, they seek to preserve their white European and Christian culture identities, and may advocate for white ethno-states. That's kind of the definition I've got. It's not too dissimilar. I think yours is a little bit kinder of a of a definition, maybe. But it's interesting how different dictionaries will have different political ideologies attached to them. Your thoughts on that, perhaps?
I would equate that more with white supremacy, and there's not too much different. We can get there, but that sounds like more of a supremacy definition rather than white nationalism. And I think that the differentiation is small, but we can get there. But I want you to read that definition again. Read that definition again.
Well, I like yours better, actually. I think I agree a little bit more with yours. I think it's still a little bit, but it says white nationalists believe that white people are inherently superior. That sounds like racism to me. To people from all other racial and ethnic groups. That's the first aspect of it. Then they seek to preserve. Now, I agree with this second part. I think it's important that we should all preserve our own cultures, wherever we come from. They seek to preserve their white European and Christian cultural identities, and may advocate for a white ethno-state. Now, there have been examples throughout the world in that, and I'd love to have an opportunity to point out some examples where it worked, where it fell apart. But go ahead.
No, we're gonna definitely get into it. I'll say for the purposes of just having the show, let's go with the definition that's on the screen, because if we get into white supremacy,
I like it.
At the beginning, it's going to be too contentious. So let's just keep it general, but we can move into that and split hairs later on. But in the general sense, we're going with white nationalism is the belief that white people should maintain a white identity and have a national or political system primarily for the benefit of white people. Often includes opposition to immigration, multiculturalism, and diversity initiatives. Now,
well, that second part seems a little xenophobic to me, and I think that it's not rational. I think we can demonstrate all throughout the West how ethnicities of other than European are being force-fed, like you're force-feeding a goose or a duck to harvest its liver. I think that the fact that white people, so to speak, or Europeans, have the most unbiased and the widest open exception to their own in-group preferences demonstrates that statement, while it might be beneficial for white nationalists to try to achieve that, it doesn't seem to be happening in actuality. I think probably the closest example of that was probably pre-apartheid, during the apartheid in South Africa, where, and we can get into that later, but your thoughts on that, if you had any pushback on that.
I think xenophobia is like the fear of others. And I don't think this is necessarily fear. I would say when you come from a nationalistic, I mean, you could spin it that way, but I think from a national aspect, you're just being aggressive you know, and kind of from the fear of being absorbed. You know what I mean? So I can kind of agree with you in a sense. I can kind of agree with you. I wouldn't call it xenophobia because xenophobia strictly stems from fear of the other. But white nationalism is just, you know, I would say it's the intention is positive and not negative. Fear is more like the negative side. Positive is just you trying to be progressive and your intentions is good. I don't know if there's really a big difference, but that's how I see it. I want to welcome in another great guest, chairman of the board. Welcome, sir. How you doing?
Man, dude, thanks for having me up. And I didn't know you were having the Rockstar GS on here too, man. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, man.
Oh, I appreciate that.
I've seen you get ridiculed by so many different people, man. It ain't even funny.
Mm-hmm.
Likewise, but his opinion is his opinion nonetheless. Do you have any comments on anything thus far, the chairman of the board?
Yeah, I have a totally different definition for this than y'all do. I think that white nationalism is exactly like black nationalism. It's pride in immutable characteristics that causes self-deception. There's like several different things y'all are discussing here that are unrelated to both nationality and the color of your skin. And that's immigration doesn't necessarily have anything to do with it except for the changing culture. And multiculturalism, culture doesn't have anything to do with skin color or really nationality. It's something completely different. I guess if you're overly concerned with the traits that you were born with or the location that you were born in, things that you had no control over, then you're really occupying your mind with something that's wasteful.
So be concise with your definition again, just to be clear.
If you can't control it, why have pride?
Your definition of white nationalism.
My definition. My definition of nationalism is nationalism and white nationalism. They're two different things that when you put them together, like it doesn't matter, right? Nationalism by itself is also prideful, and concern about what race you are is also prideful because they're things that you can't control.
So, and GS, is nationalism negative?
I don't think so. It's kind of interesting because when I was kind of pondering in your premise here, I had a couple of questions. That's why I wanted to define what valid is, what you consider to be the term definition valid. But I am a nationalist. I love my nation. I love America. I'm willing to fight and die for it. I put on a uniform for it, and I would do so again if the need arose. I think any man that would not defend his territory, whether it's his town, whether it's his home, whether it's his city, whether it's his state, whether it's his country, it's probably not worthy of the moniker man. That said, I happen to be a white person who loves his nation, and there's nothing stopping a black person from loving the same nation, and we have that common tie that would bind, but not to the exclusion of other people. Does that make sense?
It does, but you don't have a nation.
That's an interesting premise. Go ahead and
well, I mean, show me the title of the nation you own.
The title.
Yeah, like, are you a king? Like you said, you have a nation, right? Which nation is yours?
Oh, I belong to a nation.
So you're a part of a collective of people that collected, like is it like a commune? What is it? You don't really have ownership. You just think you do, or what is it?
I mean, this is starting to sound like soft citizen kind of talk now.
No. I'm just trying to follow your logic. You claim to have a nation. I'm asking you which nation it is you own.
The United States. I don't own a nation.
So you don't have a nation then?
Well, I would say he belongs to a nation, but before we get into that, I want Anson. Should I call you Anson or
yeah, Anson's fine. Yeah, I went by that on the internet for a really long time. So yeah.
Okay. Anson, I want you to say before we get into that, what is nationalism negative?
It depends on whether or not it's excessive. It's depending on the story. Like if you're centering your entire worldview around nationalism and your race, then yeah, it could be excessive. Yeah.
Okay. I want y'all to keep those topics on your mind. Do not, Anderson, do not let that go. Keep it on the top of your mind frame, but let's go through some of these first because it's going to lead us right into it. We're going to have an open discussion at the end, but for now, I just want to get into these topics about nationalism in general. So the premise, right? The premise, since it is a fact that the white birth rate is declining, should they not take an aggressive nationalistic stance? GS.
Well, I mean, it's interesting that I still would like to get to the definition of valid because I mean that's kind of the crux of white nationalism valid? But
will you hold on to that? Will you keep that and we'll come back to it?
But according to the stats, as far as by ethnic group of mother, blacks are 52 births per 1,000 black potential mothers. Whereas whites are 51. So I don't really see a big disparity between the black birth rate, the white birth rate. Matter of fact, it seems like Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders are crushing with 79 births per 1,000. That would be the capita of 1,000 as opposed to the normal 100,000 per capita, the metric that is being measured. So I don't really see a distinction between the birth rates of blacks and whites. And is the entailment because we are a white majority country and are losing a foothold on that majority? Is that why we're digging down and drilling down on that?
I mean, that's what that implies. But if you don't see it as an issue, then you don't see it as an issue. If you don't, because some people see that the declining birth rate of white births as an issue, but if you don't see it as such, then it's not an issue, correct? With you?
Well, I don't really see it as an issue. I think it's nature's equilibrium. Nature will always equalize eventually. And I understand your point, by the way. Thank you for correcting me, Chairman. As far as what a nation is, it's a group of people that might share like a commonality of a language or customs or culture. I appreciate you correcting me, and it's not about sovereignty.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I thank you for that correction, by the way.
So, Chairman.
Yeah. You want my take on this?
Please.
Yeah, so I don't understand what white birth rates declining have to do with nationalism. I thought that births were caused by like sex, and like the actual rates are more impacted by like the three things that most impact birth rates are poverty, whether or not women are educated, and access to contraception. Right? And none of those things have anything to do with nationalism. So I think that they're unrelated factors, unless you take into account that white historic white culture valued things like 100 years ago, like the cultural norms that would have promoted more births. Right. If you talk about cultural differences and apply prior culture to today and extrapolate out that that's white culture, maybe you could make an argument, but I would just say it's a culture thing in general.
Well, let me give you the argument because why I wrote this question, because one of the arguments is because white birth rates are declining, some white people feel obligated to take an aggressive white nationalist perspective because they don't want to be, moved out of power, right? So you take an aggressive white nationalistic perspective because the birth rates are declining, and you have pride in your nation and you want your nation to continue to be what it was founded to be or what you believe it to be. You know what I'm saying? That is the argument. What do you say to that?
Well, I mean, I don't know what people say. I've never met anyone that said that before. That like.
Well, what do you think about that perspective? You never heard it before. I want to know what you think about.
Well, I was raised to be a bigot, and none of the people that raised me even said anything that stupid. So I don't know what kind of white racist you've been hanging out with, but none of them said anything like that.
So you don't. I'm not asking you.
I'm saying it's a silly notion, is what I'm saying.
And I'm saying why?
Because it doesn't logically follow anything. Like
you have to give a reason. Why?
I am. I'm saying it's making correlations without causation, and there's no logical consistency to the statement whatsoever. So anyone who says it is saying something that is basically just out of fear and feelings and unrelated to real. Like, you know how people are. They say things that are stupid just because they're afraid, right? That's all that is.
So you don't believe that the causation, whatever the reasons, right? The birth rate is declining, right? But GS made another interesting claim, like per capita is not a big deal, but it is still declining nonetheless. You don't give white people validity to have an aggressive stance, because since the birth rate is declining, they can potentially be absorbed and lose the white nation. I'm going to let you come in after GS. You don't think that that's valid?
No, well, I don't think it's valid, because the things to fix the declining birth rate is to prevent women from getting an education, take away their contraception, and make them poor. And that's you know why the African countries in Africa don't have a birth rate problem, is because they have those factors, right? They're poor, they don't educate their women, and they you know, don't really have access to as much contraception as we do, right? So I mean, if we institute those same programs, then we'll have the same birth rate as Africa.
GS.
Well, I mean, I do want to correct something. Although, I mean, if we look at per capita of the 52 ethnically black women are giving birth per 1,000 versus 51, and I don't know how that equates to, well, if blacks are 13% of the population and whites are what, 56, 57%. I don't know if that exponentially is a problem for the white race, if the white race is afraid of getting bred out of, you know, dominance, or I don't know, demographically superior numbers. I got to be careful what I say, because I know there are people out there salivating, hoping I'll say some great crap.
Already clipped
it. Nah, GS, just be honest. Don't be careful on what you say. Say how you feel, but because it's okay though, bro. Like, you feel how you feel, and if you feel a particular way, you should be able to stand on it. So if somebody takes something and clip you, and as long as they keep it in context and that's how you feel, it should be okay. Like, if you don't like whoever, who the fuck gives a fuck if that's how you really feel? You know what I'm saying? Whatever the case may be. I'm not saying that that's your position, but here's the point that I will say to what you said, right? Let me add to the argument. European people / white people are the majority of the planet, are the minority of the planet, right?
8%. Yep, 8%.
Exactly. So if you look at it in that context, right, replacement theory, that white people will eventually be absorbed by brown people. Does that concern you, either of you guys? Not in America, but in a worldwide sense.
Well, I mean, if we're talking demographics, you know, 10% can become 100%, if you know what I mean.
I mean, how 10% can become 100%, but by what means?
The thing that we always get accused of: colonizing, warmongering, conquering. You know, right. I mean, you could say a lot about white people. We're really nice until we're not, and then when we're not nice, we really do conquer a lot of things.
Well, I think that's a valid, I wouldn't say accusation, but that's historically correct. But my question was, is that an issue for GS? Do you believe that that's an issue?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's just a number. A demographic is a demographic. I believe that there's.
No, we're not talking about demographics. We're talking about the potential of white people to be absorbed by brown people and become non-existent. Is that an issue for GS specifically?
I don't think it's an issue if it happens naturally. I think it's an issue if it's being created. And I think there is a potentiality for the NGOs and some of the stuff that's been going on in the West right now. I think there's a potentiality that that's part of the design. And by the way, I don't know if you want to keep that message up the whole time, but people can't see our names or anything like that, or, you know, for the comment.
Thank you.
There you go. But
thank you.
But yeah, I don't listen. If it's my time to go, it's my time to go. I'm not clinging to this world. First off, my treasures aren't stored down here. You know,
that's an interesting perspective. So you said if it happens naturally, then, you know, let nature take its course. But if somebody is actually directing it, then you see it as a negative.
Well, I mean, how would you feel if you found out that Margaret Sanger, for example, was purposely trying to target minority neighborhoods to abort more black babies than were born?
Yeah, I think that's the case, and I do think that's an atrocity. I agree with you, but I just wanted to know your position, and I believe that that's valid. Chairman.
Yeah, in order for me to be concerned about the breeding decisions of all of the other white people, I would have to assume concern for all these other people's behavior that's really none of my damn business.
So, not necessarily concerned about breeding, but concerned about your heritage not existing in the future. Like,
Oh, no, I'm
say,
not worried about that. I had children, and I'm training them to carry on the legacy and name of my family that I have hundreds of years of history of that I'm passing on to my children. There are subcultures in the white community that are breeding, do, and not all of us will disappear. I have no concern about that.
absolutely. That is great perspective from both of you guys. I now want to bring in Pan African James to the panel. Would you like to comment?
Peace to the panel. Very interesting topic. I mean, and unexpected. I'm unfamiliar with both of the gentlemen on the panel, but I think that this is an interesting topic that's very needed in America, as far as like Europeans and African Americans having a conversation about what's going on in this nation. So thank you for allowing me to jump on the panel. Right now, I don't really have anything to say about that topic. And as far as like breeding, I mean, it kind of sounds like that's what y'all are speaking on now. I don't even know these guys' position. Are they European nationalists or no?
Well, no, it's not their position. The position is the topic that's on the screen, right? So there is a fact of the matter that the European race is the minority of the planet. And my question was to the Europeans that's on the panel, my guys, do they have an issue with, potentially, potentially like being absorbed, like identity wise, you know what I'm saying? Like, because if the brown people on the planet, whatever nationality you may, the majority is the melanated people, if things keep going, and what science says, if things keep going at the rate that it is, like in the not too far future, the European identity could potentially be, gone, and not necessarily gone, because like the chairman said, you can still teach that you have that heritage, but as far as their complexion, that complexion could be a thing of the past in the near future. And I asked him if they had an issue with that, and both of them seemed to say no, except GS, the guy that's directly up under me. He said he don't have a problem with it, but if somebody is intentionally trying to, like, genocide a people or absorb a people intentionally, then that is an issue. And
okay.
Yeah.
So I agree with both of their positions. I don't think that they really have anything to worry about, just like I don't think that Africans really have anything to worry about. However, I will admit that they do have a natural, seemingly history of trying to remove people from their indigenous lands for their own financial and purposes, or whatever their agenda may be. Because we have history of this throughout history. We've seen what happened in America. This used to be Native American land. We no longer barely even see them.
Okay. We'll get to that point. We will get to that point. But GS did kind of throw that out there as that being an issue. He said that was one of the things that they do get accused of, and I said
not accused. It's a historical fact.
That is a historical fact. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but that's not the issue at hand. We will get to that. So keep that at the top of your mind. We will revisit that. So let's go to the next question. Right. So, being that white people founded this nation, why is it bad for them to want to keep others out of power and keep it a primarily white governed nation? Like, why does that have to be a negative thing? Do you guys see that as a negative thing? Like me, for example, right? I'm okay with saying that, if me and people that look like me founded a nation, I probably would want to keep it in my family. Like if I'm honest, you know what I'm saying? And whatever means that I have to take in order to do that, so be it. I don't think people are necessarily in the wrong for doing that. So my question to you guys is that a negative since white people founded this nation and they wanted to be a white nation from inception? Is it bad to want to keep it that way? GS.
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting that the gentleman who just entered,
Pan-African James.
Your thing's down in the way, so I can't. Okay, that's okay. Pan-African James. He put forward a premise. The premise was that that white people have conquered other indigenous people and taken their wealth and their stuff.
Yeah, we have.
So the question is, do you understand what the law of conquest is?
If you're talking, well, I'm only going to deal with that question from a nature's perspective. So basically, you're asking me do I understand if somebody that's stronger comes into a territory and takes it over, is that okay?
No. The concept of the international concept of the law of conquest that nations recognize. Hold on, nations recognize that there's this concept of if you take it, it's yours.
That's what I just said. You said if a stronger people comes into a territory and takes it, it's okay. Yeah, that's what I just said. But hold on, let me explain to you. Hold on. You said this is a law.
Oh, hey, hold on.
This law is created by somebody. Who created the law?
Don't spark out. So the international community all got together and said, it's okay when these people conquer everyone else, except for when Whitey does it. Suddenly it's a freaking problem. Well, suddenly we have a problem. When the Zulus were rampaging all over South Africa, and then the Boyers came and started making treaties and brought superior tactics and weaponry and started making treaties with the smaller tribes to fight off the Zulus and did land treaties and land deals and land purchases and then farmed the land, made it arid, made it actually worth putting livestock and food into when it was sitting there the whole time and no one else could figure out how to do it. Suddenly now, present day, they want to take it and they kill the Boyer and take the land back. What are you going to do with it once you get it? It's just going to go. It's just going to go. It's just going to go blank again, dude.
Isn't that the law of conquest? Isn't that the law of conquest, though? Right? The Boers got weak and fat on their farms, and now they're having their stuff taken from them because the whole law of conquest is based. The law of conquest is based on power.
So that's an interesting argument. Yeah, the power was that a minority of whites in South Africa were running things. And pre-apartheid, when apartheid was happening, Johannesburg.
Excuse me. I really want to go down this line, but I have some topics that I want to go.
Right. I mean, this is exactly the topic. I'm pointing to a place on the map at a particular point in time and period where there was a white nationalist or supremacy or whatever, which was apartheid in South Africa, where things were amazing. They had the best hospital in the world.
He said it was amazing.
The infrastructure was amazing.
Crazy.
The Krugerrand was like the highest valued currency on the planet. And then post apartheid, everything fell apart. So
I got you.
That's my argument. That's my argument. History.
I got you. But this is a rebuttal to what James said. It's really not a statement dealing with the question that's on it. But I want to go down that line of inquiry. So if you please write it down, I want to revisit it. But I want to get these out the way. I don't mind going there because you're making some good points. That's fine. We're not gonna stray away from these points, Diaz. Believe me. We're gonna get it in. But I just want to touch on these points first, if you don't mind. And I would just hope that we can get past these first and then have the open discussion, right? So if you don't mind, will you write that down and bring it back up, please?
All right, it's fine. It's already been stated. So right. Can we get to what valid means before we proceed?
Well, the thing
What's your definition of valid?
Because we're talking about white nationalist perspective being valid, which wouldn't be my perspective, right? It would be from the white perspective. So it would have to be from a person that actually holds that position. And then we know valid is subjective to the person. So it really doesn't matter what I think. It's from the person who's holding that position, or like, you understand what I'm saying? Like, is it valid person who holds that position.
I'm saying definitionally valid of an argument or point having a sound basis in logic or fact, reasonable or cogent. Otherwise, or step 2 would be legally binding due to having been executed in compliance with the law, or legally or officially acceptable. These things aren't happening in the world. Matter of fact, the last place that it was happening was Johannesburg during the apartheid. That's why I pointed it out. So when you're saying, is it valid? It doesn't exist. Well, they're trying to replicate it in Poland right now, and they're getting a lot of international pushback. True?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like apparently Poland's not for Polish people. It's got to be for everyone else.
No, I get it,
I'm not saying that that's your statement. I'm saying the world has seemed to look down on that particular aspect of white people, basically Slavics, so to speak, trying to maintain what you're talking about. I think that's the only existing that I've noticed. That's the only place that it's existing, what the template that you're talking about. And I think it is valid that they should be able to have that.
That is the inquiry. It's not nothing that I'm giving. I'm just asking the question, right? And you just said it. You just said a simple point. At the end, after you went through the whole notion, you said at the end that it is valid for people to be able to feel like that and to manifest what they want their nation to be. You know what I'm saying? Since they found it, the Slavs, right? So you believe that it is valid. So there's your answer to that. But my question to you is, being that white people founded this nation, why is it bad for them to want to keep other peoples out of power and keep it primarily a white governed nation? Like you said, the example of Poland, you said that that's valid, but now let's bring it here to America. Is that a negative thing or not?
Okay, so you want to keep it America only. Okay, fine. I didn't understand that was we went completely off the rails all over the world, and now we want to bring it back to America. Okay,
yes. This is the question. You know what I'm saying? We can switch it back and forth. You know
I'd like to know what the question is and it not move every time I try to like get it to zero my target. I get a good shot group going, and all of a sudden you're like, no, we're over here now, and I got to rescope. So okay, we'll focus on America. I'm fine with that.
Can I address the prompt as it's stated?
Please.
So I didn't sign the Constitution, and I didn't found the nation. And in order for me to, I guess, concern myself with the skin color of the people who signed a document 200 something years ago to make decisions about what is appropriate in the culture that I live in today would be insane.
So do you really feel like that? What about if it was you? What if it was you, right? What if you founded a nation and then you wrote in the Constitution, you want this to be passed down to your descendants?
Well, yeah.
Then is it valid?
Yeah. Well, and if I were to found a nation, it would be a monarchy. And like what you're describing, we don't have a monarchy, though. We have a tragedy of the commons system where nobody really owns it. So it's going to degenerate no matter what we do. So it's kind of irrelevant. But the like, why that's kind of like saying the guy that invented the Saturn V rocket, Wernher von Braun. He was one of the mustache men scientists that we got from Operation Paperclip during World War II. It's kind of like saying a German from World War II who did a lot of bad things came to America and built the rocket that went to the moon. So only those kind of people can go to the moon from now on.
Allegedly.
Right? It makes zero sense when you apply that logic in other domains, right? Like that doesn't make any sense to you, right? Because it's the same logic. I'm just using a different hypothetical to test the logic, right? Just because a specific kind of person made something doesn't mean that they have ownership over it 200 something years later.
No, I definitely get it. But whenever I put myself in that position, and I already stated my position, like I would want to hand something down to my descendants. And then you said, yes, I would want it to be a monarchy. But since it's not, then you have an issue with it. And I have the same issue. I have the same contradiction in my mind because, you know, me being I will say I don't want to say victim, right? But I get the shit end of the stick being that I didn't found the nation. But the people who did found the nation, you know, gets to, you know, dictate who they want to rule.
Well, that
I
ain't
believe,
true. That ain't.
well,
So I have ancestors that fought in the Revolutionary War. We don't get to dictate anything today.
well, I didn't say fought in the war. I said founded
Well,
the country.
that was part of the founding. That was the main part of the founding. The people who got out there and actually fired the weapons to run out the British. They founded the nation. They didn't sign the document. My ancestors didn't, but they were part of the founding, right? And that
Uh,
doesn't mean that I get any kind of special treatment today because I have people that I was related to that died a couple hundred years ago, right? That's kind of an irrelevant point.
no, I I don't see it as irrelevant, and you made all valid points, but I think I am conflating it. And I think if white people realize that there's a difference between the elitist people who own the majority of the country and regular white people, and that white people and black people is in the same boat, and I think we wouldn't have a lot of the issues that we have today because white people do feel like you said, this is not your country. You know what I'm saying? It belongs to everybody, but there's some people that feel like that it does belong to them, and they own a lot of the land. The biggest corporations and that thing. Hold on, GS. I'm gonna go to Pan African James. Pan African James, do you think it is okay? Do you think it's right? Do you think it's valid for a people that founds a nation, right? That initiates a nation? Is it okay that they want to keep their people in power?
That's the natural thing. So to simply just put it, that'd be the natural thing to do as far as any, not even just related to just humans, but any species on the planet would want to be in power in any territory that they're in, especially knowing the history of this country, how it was founded. That's the whole agenda of the country was to take the land. Yes, it was to take the land from the Native Americans, and claim it as your own. That's what happened. So
I think
that's exactly where we're at today. So
I think you should just keep it right there. That is a natural thing to do. If you found a nation and want to pass it down,
that's naturally what happens. And just look, every civilization that's been on top, they eventually fall. So it's nothing that anybody can really. All of this is really just arbitrary because America's on the way down right now as we speak. So it's just amazing that we just really it's nothing that Europeans can do to stop what's going on right now. You know what I'm saying, in the world. So it is what it is. You want to be on top, but it's no matter what's going to happen, it's not going to save you. Eventually you're going to fall, just like Rome, just like Egypt, just like the Persians, just like the Assyrians. All of this stuff is just the cycle of life. And Europeans are just getting ready to be on the end cycle of what happens here in America. That's it.
I think that is an interesting perspective, that this is all just nature, people conquest and people want to stay in power, but eventually all nations fall. And there's nothing you can do about it. You can whine, cry, kick and scream, but all nations fall. And, there hasn't been a time in history to where people, keep their progeny, their family, their descendants in power, even though we have times in history to where people, like people breeded with their own relatives in order to stay in power to keep that, you know what I'm saying? And it came to something negative, you know what I mean? But GS, you wanted to say something else before we move forward?
Well, I just wanted to push back a little bit on what Chambers said. So let's just do a little thought experiment real quick. All right. So everyone in here has a little spot of land that their great grandfather cleared and then built some modest structure on, started to work the land. And then their son, your grandfather inherited it. He had a son who was your dad, who inherited it. And then you came along. Now, do you think that just some random people from other places in the world can just walk onto your family farm and just tell you how to run your family farm? Or do you think that there's a manifest destiny that would be applicable in that scenario? Or you just, and if your answer is just let whoever run my farm, then why do you lock your door? Why not just let everyone just rummage through everything that you own? Because you own nothing, apparently. You have no claim on anything. Any response to that, gentlemen?
So you're saying that I don't know of anyone that made any claim that private property rights don't exist, but the the scenario that you laid out is exactly like what's happened with my family. My great grandfather had a lot of land, and what ended up happening was it went to my grandparents, and then inflation and taxes and inheritance being stolen by the government over enough generations, where my family doesn't own anything anymore.
There it is.
And so the government has seized my property already, that should have been handed down to me. So
my question, my follow-up to that's a really good point. And that's actually where I was going next. You own it until you can't own it. If there are outside exterior forces preventing you from maintaining control of it, right, that aren't looking out for your best interest, but might be looking out for other groups' best interest at your expense.
Yep.
So therefore, it goes back to my original premise. I think any group that's being quote unquote genocide or being told that they don't have a right to exist, I think it's wrong, and I would stand against it. I would stand with in solidarity any of my brothers, I don't care what color their skin is, to try to help them continue to have the right to try to exist at least.
Well, so I think you and James are making the great point. So the question is, because like he said, nature, right? It could just be the course of nature. You know what I mean? So is it directed? You know what I'm saying? Is it intentional? I don't think so. But white people being 10% and the rest being brown people, like if nature take its course, then there's not going to be white people. But then doesn't that breed fear? You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. Now, is it justified fear? Should people let nature take its course? But I want to go to the next one. I think these two things are the crux of the issue, right? So keep that on the forefront of your mind, right? Should nature take its course, or should man, right, be the captain of the ship and be able to direct, the course of nature the way he see fit, All right. Doesn't every ethnic group or culture group have a right to preserve its identity and traditions? With the follow-up, we know that white pride comes with the stigma of racism, white supremacy. Do you believe white pride can be separated from racism, white supremacy? So the reason why I put these things is that when white people talk about white pride, it seems like the world gets upset with it. They correlate white pride with racism, white supremacy. Like white people can't be proud without black people or any other type of people being like, hey, we're not doing that right there. So how do we deal with, white people being proud of their heritage, which comes with conquest, and being sensitive to other people? You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
If you look at the world through a racial lens, yeah, I'm sure that would make sense, right?
Okay. Pan-African James, do you understand the question? So I'll go ahead. I think GS.
No, my mic. Hold up. I thought my mic was muted. So I didn't know it was muted. But hold on. It's a lot in this question, but it's what the deal is. You're talking about specific people, specific group of Europeans, which are white nationalists or white supremacists or something like that. All Europeans aren't that. But if that was their take as an African nationalist, I don't have a problem with them having pride, because I have pride in being an African American or an African person myself. So I don't see any problem with the European being proud of being a European. Where the problem comes in is when they start to impede on other people being successful or being separated and being successful as a different group. That's where the problem comes in. But as long as they can be proud without impeding on other races or, doing anything detrimental to keep them from prospering, I don't have a problem with Europeans being proud of being European.
That is interesting, because it seems like to me, I don't know about you, but even as a black person, and I see white people make this gripe that we can't be proud without, people thinking that we are being, offensive to other people. You know what I'm saying? Take for instance, hold on, let me land the plane. Yeah. Take for instance, like the Confederate flag or whatever. Some people would just say, hey, it's not the slavery aspect, but it's just that, I'm proud I was from the South or whatever, but other people take offense. But if you take the whole historical context in it, you can see why people get offended. But my thing is, can we separate, white pride, or does white pride innately equal white supremacy? Because here's the thing, right? So you can look at it from this perspective also, right? It seems like white pride is colonization, because you can look at it like that. Because whenever you look at the world as a whole, right? Whenever white people touched Australia, right? They genocided these people. When white people touched South America, they genocided these people. Central America, North America, hell, they trying to do Africa. So it seems like when white people touch, colonization, and they plant their flag, it seems like white nationalism, white pride is something other than just innocent, sweet white pride. It's like white supremacy. The point that kind of GS was making, not the point that he was making, but sometimes there's no distinction between, white pride and white supremacy, or white nationalism and white supremacy.
Yeah, it's all right if white people have pride as long as they stay in their place, right?
I don't know what their place is. What does that mean?
Yeah, well, that was the guy on the bottom's point, right? As long as they don't infringe on other, as long as they stay, stay in the house.
No. Hold
house
on.
white boys.
No. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's okay for Europeans to be proud to be Europeans, as long as they are not killing African people based on their race.
Well,
you understand that?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
it's okay. It's okay for y'all to be
people.
European. Hold on, listen. It's okay to be European as long as you don't get mad because you see people in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that's African, that's prospering and just lead off to themselves and just go say because they're prospering, let's go burn the city, the town down.
Yeah, that's
if you're not gonna do that, I don't have a problem with you. I don't have a problem with you being proud of who you are. But when it turns to, my pride is going to turn into me impeding other people from being successful, that's where the problem is. You understand what I'm saying now?
Well, and that's different. You said two different things.
That's
here.
the same thing I said earlier.
Well, impeding other people to be successful and then deleting other people are two different things, right? So your definition of impeding other people is probably different than my definition of impeding other people, and it's really important to clarify that, right? Like would like, I don't know how to put it. Would me putting a Southern Cross on my front yard impede you from walking down the street with your child in front of my house?
No, not unless you came out and said I can't walk down the street.
Well, yeah, okay. So okay. And the other thing is the pride thing that you keep on talking about. Like you have pride in the way that you were born, like you earned it somehow.
No,
I don't understand.
I never said that.
Well, I
said you have pride in what particular ethnicity that you are.
Right. Yeah, the way you were born.
So you saying that you don't have pride in being a European?
No. Why would I have pride in something that I didn't work for?
You don't have to work for it. It's just something that you are. So they're just like saying that anything else off in nature is just the idiot because it self-segregates.
No. If you feel like you are,
see, I'm not going to even use humans anymore.
Yeah.
Everything else on this planet self-segregates. We don't use it as a pride thing, right? But that's what it does. Hold on. Without even talking to humans, it does it by itself.
We're the same.
We're not the same.
We are. We're the same. We're both humans. The color of your skin is no separation because you and I are both people, right? It's not. I don't look at you as different than me.
I'm sorry to disagree, but we're not the same.
Okay.
Because if we were the same, we wouldn't have different titles to identify that we're different.
Yeah, but those are social constructions, right? Like we're not identical.
Are they imaginary? You said they're imaginary?
No, I'm saying they're social constructions, right?
You saying they're imaginary?
No, I'm saying they're social. There's a difference between imaginary and social.
See, that word right there you just used. That word is a word that you use to try to get away from what actual reality is, right? There's a reality in history of certain people based on phenotypical features doing things to other humans based on their phenotypical features. You cannot deny history, and that's what I'm going to stick to in this particular topic. You
I'm
can't
not gonna
deny
be.
what Europeans have done
Yeah.
to Native Americans based on
No.
their phenotypical features.
Yeah. Why
You
would I
can't deny
deny
that. It
something?
was just simply based. Hold on. It was just simply based on their phenotypical features.
Why would I?
They
Why
did
would
what
I?
they did.
So we about to put a pin in this topic.
Okay.
So we're gonna have this conversation. Put a pin in the topic. Please remember to come back to it. But we're going to finish these points. I didn't make these points up for my help. So we're going to get through them. But I do want to have these conversations. I feel like they are great conversations. But we're not at the open panel yet, because once it gets there, it's gonna get messy. You know what I'm saying? So let's hold the mess to the end. Do you guys mind? And I want to bring up to the panel Brick Jonesy, also known as Clay Foundations. How you doing, Brick?
What's up, brother, man? Good to see you. Good to see everybody on panel.
Yes, sir. Would you like to speak on anything thus far before we move forward?
Yeah, I'll just make it real quick before we move forward. Yeah, just me personally, any form of division does not promote unity. I personally like to promote peace. We do things with legal documentation in this country, and at worst case scenario, we use defense. So primarily things are done in that fashion. I know that we have differences in opinions, but those differences in opinions, we just can't let those differences dictate going to a fight if we can help that.
So
can I address the prompt?
Absolutely. Let me ask him a question before we move forward. But yeah, please, I want you to address the prompt. Brick, so what is your position on white nationalism as being aggressive because the European people are the minority of the world and are in fear of getting absorbed? What is your position?
I don't see it ever happening to be completely absorbed in any if you want to go by melanin, if you want to go by what a lot of people call race, I don't see that happening. It's literally built in the DNA for our bodies to be able to reproduce the plethora of differences that we actually see with the billions, literally 8 billion people on the planet right now. The only reason we see so many differences is because there's so many compared to, say, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, so on and so forth. I just don't believe it's really possible.
So, science says that it is possible and it's eventually going to happen. So you disagree with science. I don't think anybody else on the panel doesn't believe that it is eventually going to happen, at least according to science. That is the scientific consensus. But you gave your opinion. Answer.
Yeah, so there are 3 different things in here in this prompt that are important to, I guess, understand the distinctions of, because you're lumping lots of different things in here, right? Ethnicity is something that you can't really control. Culture is a social construction that's a collective of minds and how they feel about how what the social norms are, right? What the customs are for a specific group, right? And so one of them is something that is within the individual's control, and one of them is not, right? And so if you live a life that is good, that is geared toward controlling your reactions to your external environment, you will promote a positive culture because it's the collective of individuals doing that, right? So you have control over that, but you don't have control over ethnicity. So making any decisions based on ethnicity is fallacious.
So you think because you don't have control over it, it's fallacious to make a decision regarding it? I would have to beg to differ, because people do it all the time. And people substantiate it with all different kind of reasons. Is it valid? Which is the question, right? So you can say that it's fallacious, but people do it. And that's the thing. Yeah. Like, you can say that, but the thing is, in reality, people make all kind of decisions based on their ethnic heritage, social construct, whatever it may be. But that's your position, and I accept it. Let's move to the next one, right? Why is it seen as racist when white people want to preserve and advocate for their own best interests? So, like I think this is kind of becoming redundant a little bit, right? Because the reason why I put this question or this prompt, this argument, whatever you want to call it, is because like I see the nation, right, of America being founded by white Europeans who didn't intend for this nation to be all inclusive. And then when white people take that position and you are however many years later down the line, and people say, hey, I want what it was intended to be, that's considered racist, right? And then when people say they want to take their own best interest, and that's as far as so the part where I mean it's racist for white people to do what's best for their own interests, I mean try to protect themselves from getting absorbed since they are the minority of the population, and that means potentially having to take an aggressive position. Why does that have to be racist? Like, should we? And you guys on the panel seem like you don't have an issue with it. You know what I'm saying? That potentially white people can be absorbed, but when white people do express a fear for that, why does it have to be seen as racist? Do you get what I'm saying? Like, why does it have to be seen as racist if a motherfucker don't want to get absorbed by the rest of the world? Is that like you just supposed to accept it? Like, let nature run its course. I'm racist because I want to keep you motherfuckers off my back. I don't want to breed with you guys. I want to conquest. I want to take over your shit because I'm potentially going to be bred out of existence. Is that racist? Is that negative?
Well, I mean, it's kind of, I'm trying to figure out where you're getting your metrics from. You got three, I guess, Caucasians, Europeans, something. I'm more Mediterranean than anything else. I don't know what that puts me. You got three, basically, for all intents and purposes, white dudes telling you they're not afraid of any of this.
I'm English and German, by the way.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm like sitting here going, yeah, like where are you getting your metrics from that white people all over the world are afraid of being replaced? Like where's that coming from? It sounds like some bagel talking points.
Yeah.
I mean, you can call it that. They are just talking points. If you guys don't believe it, you don't believe it. If you don't accept it, you don't accept it. Some
no,
people do.
We're giving you.
Let me finish.
We're giving you a live sample size of three people that aren't worried about it. So
you're right. You don't.
Let me
Hold on. I get it. The white people that I have on the panel don't have an issue with this, but nonetheless, it is an issue, especially with the definition of white nationalism that you gave, which was more along the lines of white supremacists, which we do have white supremacists in the world that do feel these ways. And you guys may not feel that way, but we're just talking about it. I'm not accusing you guys. These are just general talking points, general questions. And I feel like it's refreshing that the white guys that I do have on the panel don't feel this way. We've never had this conversation in public, and that's why we're having this conversation. Because to get a sense that, hey, my neighbors next door don't feel this way. Who the fuck are we talking about then? Where are these talking points coming from? That is valid. These narratives are in the world, and we should have these hard conversations. Because if it's not my neighbors, then who? That is the question. We're going to get there, sir. I promise. I'm asking these questions.
So I got a question because I want to clarify what I guess advocate for my own interest, right? So would you consider it to be a white nationalist interest in the context of this question if I were to tell my daughter not to marry a black man because I wanted to make sure that I had white grandchildren? Would that be me advocating for my interest in the context of your question?
I think in the context of a white nationalist stance, yes. Okay, so it wouldn't be in my personal. I don't think that, but I think there are people who hold that interest. Now you cannot tell me that you have never met another white person that didn't want to procreate with people outside of their so-called race.
Yeah. Okay, I mean, I've dated. Yeah, I've dated plenty of black women, but I never bred with any of them. You know, I mean, and I'm hopeful that my daughter has white grandkids for me. You know, and it's not it for anything other than like the cultural differences between the white people and the black people in my community than anything else, not necessarily the race. You know, if she found a nice black guy who shared the same culture as me, I probably wouldn't have a problem with it.
Right. So then you are of one of the people who want to keep his lineages at least close to what it is now, or, you know, European of the white so-called race. That's fair to say?
Well, no, the culture is what I'm concerned about, not necessarily the skin tone, right?
So what is your culture?
I'm a Southern American. I guess you'd call us the Baptists and Methodists that founded the American South.
So if your daughter was to marry someone, a Yankee, you would be against that.
Well, no,
would,
no. They could share the same affinity for Christendom,
no,
and
I'm saying a Yankee that is not
yeah.
abide by the culture that you're talking about. Because we talk.
Well,
That's what you said. You make a distinction. You said, hold on. Hold on. So I'm trying to give you an example of someone who doesn't share that culture. I want you to stand on it. So let's give another white person that's from the North that doesn't share the same values as the Southern Baptists. Let's say that they are a Catholic, Yankee, you know what I'm saying? Whatever.
You're describing my second wife. So, but see, we shared a similar culture in that she came from the German heritage that I came from, right? And so it was very similar to the culture that my family came from in terms of the background culture that was still residual, that hadn't been beaten out by the melting pot, right? So as long as there's the cultural similarity there, I'm not exactly sure what that cultural similarity will look like. I was just giving you attributes off the top. I was just giving you attributes off the top of my head that felt familiar, right? Now, if
what is the
if
issue,
my daughter started if my daughter started dating some kid that listened to rap music and wore his pants too low, I'd tell her to kick that guy to the curb, because that wasn't the kind of culture that I wanted my daughter to be a part of, whether that kid was a white kid or a black kid.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
And I don't have no position on that. GS, do you want to comment?
Go ahead and pass me. I'm trying to promote your channel right now, and I'm trying to get people to go over and at least give you a like, maybe leave a comment and subscribe to your channel. 1 second.
Appreciate
I apologize. Yeah.
No, you good. Pan African James.
Well, I don't think I'm not fit to answer this question.
Man, answer the question.
No, I'm just saying I'm not a European, so I don't know. Well, I don't know how they feel about defer to let the European.
So let me rephrase it. Let me rephrase it. Would you have an issue if your daughter married a white woman? Do you want to preserve your African heritage? Would you feel like that was an issue for you?
Yes.
Why?
Because we're genetically not different all the way across the board and culturally, as the other person said. So we're both genetically and culturally different. So that would be my reasoning. I don't think that it would be in anyone of African descent benefit to procreate with somebody that's not African.
For what reason? Why do you say this?
Because of genetic diversity in particular.
Which
and the lack there. I mean, well, if you are genetically inclined, you would understand that Africans are the most genetically diverse humans on the planet. So when you procreate with somebody that has less genetic diversity, it's not a healthy thing to do. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, but I really liked the mulatto girls when I was a teenager, man.
They look cute. They look great.
Yeah,
I didn't say about the beauty. I didn't say what they phenotypically look like. I'm just talking about purely from a gain negative perspective. As far as like,
so that is an interesting perspective, and that goes into eugenics. You know what I'm saying? Do people have the right to, procreate the way and with whatever they feel and to like manifest the future? Hold on, and kind of like arrange the future and how they see fit. Get how can I say? Actually, take a initiative on breeding in certain ways in order to direct the future in the way that you see fit by breeding. I think that is an interesting point. I do want to have a conversation about eugenics because I feel that we could really have some profound discussions, because this is just a little sidebar. Think about it. Everything else that we breed, we design it, whether it be plants, animal husbandry, everything. We take the initiative to direct every type of breeding that you can think of. But when it comes to humans, we are against it.
Oh, no, we're not. We do it. It's just not like out in the open,
promoted.
right? The women,
Yeah.
the women are the sexual selectors. Typically, they're the ones that choose the males that they allow to, you know, impregnate them and breed with.
Right.
And they're the ones. We should get a woman on here to talk about why they chose their breeding choices for the stag that they were having. So
I would love for a woman to
This
come
is
up.
crazy.
I would love for a woman to come up and give her perspective on any of this. And we're coming to the end. I want to come back to some of the topics that we brought up before. So I hope y'all got those on your mind, because we're circling back around to those. So the idea of all the people on the planet believing in one race, is it realistic or unrealistic, or is it idealistic, right? So we here in America, we talk about, oh, there's only one race, and that's the human race. You know what I'm saying? Is this ideal? Is this ideal realistic? Is it unrealistic? Because, you know, like if you go somewhere else, you didn't get a chance to speak on the last issue, huh, GS? Did you want to speak on the last issue, or you want to get into this?
No, go ahead. Well,
Yeah.
I don't want to prolong your show, man. You're probably busy, man.
Nah, I'm taking my time with it. You know what I'm saying? So whatever you want to do, we can do whatever you want to do. But the question right now, the ideal, and I'm asking this question for a reason. I know it kind of seems like I'm all over the place, but there is a reason, right? Because whenever we're talking about white nationalism being, you know, a net positive or a negative, right? Then we got to consider the alternative, which is this one race theory. Can that ever be an actuality, or is it unrealistic, or is it just optimistic thinking? GS. And I mean, for the world and the U.S., we talk about it. Well, what about if you go into like Palestine? You think these people? What about if you go into like India? Are they thinking about a one world race? You know what I'm saying? These places that's, you know, in the Far East. Do these guys think like that, or is that an American thing?
I would say that anywhere that there's prosperity, other groups that are less prosperous want to go and enjoy the fruits of that prosperity. A matter of fact, if let's say China starts crushing on the world stage, you know how many people are going to be scrambling to try to get into China? Mm-hmm. You know, let's say China becomes the new USA, and everyone thinks that Chinese are, well, this is a fact. Asians are probably the most unapologetically racist people on the face of this planet. I worked in a traditional Korean kitchen. I was one of the few white people. I spoke a little bit of the language from having served in Korea. And I learned how to cook traditional Korean cuisine. And for an Occidental to go into a traditionally Oriental cuisine, it's pretty unheard of. But so the point I'm trying to say is that wherever there's prosperity, you'll have people trying to migrate economically, right? And they think it's unfair that you don't let them in. Meanwhile, they're taking a giant steaming turd right on your chest as they're coming through the door. And that not only they just want what you have, they don't think you're better because you have it. They think that you stole it from them because you have it. And so they come and they take it, and then they don't know how to maintain it. And then it turns into a crumbling ruin.
So I want you to be concise. And you know, you did. That was a great answer. But I want you to make a definitive answer. Do you believe that the concept of one race and the world accepting it is feasible?
I think it is definitely feasible. It's definitely, if it's plausible or possible, then it is feasible, right? I mean, mathematically. Possible? Yeah. I think is it probable? I think the likelihood is pretty high.
Wow.
But that said, I don't have the citation, so I might be wrong. Don't quote me on this, but I think there's like, if let's say, for instance, you married a white woman and you had mixed offspring, they can donate their organs to each other, but you can't donate to your offspring, nor can your wife donate to your offspring. It's incompatible. So why is nature doing that? There has to be a purpose. So, but if you get enough of that happening, then eventually all would be able to donate to all. But there would be perhaps a painful process where you might lose a loved one because you can't donate to them. You know, something that you could have donated to, like race children. You know, imagine how painful that would be.
And what about the concept of inheritance too? Like, I've heard the position where people take that, you know, I don't want my inheritance or my my wealth, my inheritance to go outside of my people. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like if your daughter was to marry somebody black, you know what I'm saying, and then their offspring marry somebody black, your whole inheritance will move, you know, somewhere else nationally. And people are concerned with that. Is that a valid issue to you? Like in an inheritance sense, like property rights?
I'm so poor, man. I can't even afford to pay attention. I ain't worried about no inheritance.
My inheritance is already redistributed to all the people on welfare, so I don't really care anymore.
I'm thinking a bagel down the street must have stole my white privilege card because he never arrived in the mail. So
I know that's right. So, Anson, do you want to address the idea of this concept of one race? Is it probable? Is it realistic, or is it idealistic?
Are you talking about like let me just clarify so I understand the question. The concept that eventually all humans will breed into one homogeneous race? Or are you saying the concept that we're all the human race, kumbaya, the concept of the fact that you're white and I'm black is irrelevant because we're both humans, that thing?
Exactly, the latter.
Yeah. So of course, I understand that there are issues of identity that people attribute to their like the way that they're born. And I understand that from my perspective, that is misplaced, but it's not something that other people consider to be misplaced. So I'm not going to live in a delusional state and assume that other people are going to view it the same way I do. Right. So of course it's absurd to think that you're going to think that you and I are, you know, very similar because, you know, I get a sunburn when I go outside for 10 minutes, you know, and you don't, right? We're different. We have different attributes, even though I do consider you to be equal to me in terms of I'll put it, you're just as human as I am, man.
We'll take back the equal shit there because it sounded like you was about to say something profound and then you backpedaled on it. I'm just fucking with you, Anson. I'm just fucking with you.
Yeah, we're not equitable, but we're equal.
And what terms?
Well, I mean, the DEI concept of equity is disgusting, redistributionist Marxism, and it's been conflated with equality. And equality is just we are all born equal shit.
I want you to make the distinction between equity and equality in terms of inclusion, in terms of the DEI.
Yeah. Oh, equity is just this person has more than me, so they must have taken it from me.
You think that's what equity means?
Yeah, that's exactly what it means. When you boil down all the arguments down to the final conclusion of all of this, you know, colonialism stuff and nonsense that the DEI is all wrapped up in. Yeah, that's the critical race theory nonsense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think people try to boil it down to that, but that's definitely not what equity means. I think some people try to argue it that way, but that's definitely not what equity means. Pan-African James, the idea of one race, people having distinct heritages, but still being like, hey, we are one race and we are all together and we can do away with these superficial distinctions and just become harmonious and just do away with all the dichotomy.
Impossible. And the only way that that's going to happen if a rock is getting ready to hit the planet. That's the only time we're going to care about and understand that we're all on this in this together.
Do you think that we should? Do you think that we should?
Yeah, I think that we should, but I'm just a realist and I understand that that's impossible based on what I see in nature. I mean, I think we're all a part of nature, and I don't think that trying to separate ourselves from nature and understand what we're dealing with is helping anyone. If you look at what's going on this planet, it all does the same thing. I think we would do a great job of just looking at that. I think that Europeans are conditioned to be in the Northern Hemisphere, just like we're conditioned to be in the Southern Hemisphere. I think proximity as far as procreation, if you're in a close proximity to someone that looks like you, you're going to keep procreating that particular phenotypical type of person. So I don't think anybody has anything to worry about unless somebody drops a nuke and kills everybody on the planet or a rock hits it. That's the only time we're going to even think about unifying and try to reserve humanity. And that's my position. Go ahead.
Brick.
Yeah, brother, man. Yeah. So for me, I might need a little bit of clarification with the question believing in. Typically, what I attribute that to is putting faith into that thing. So one race being realistic or unrealistic would be that premise. I'm assuming that what you mean by that is believing that the human race is one race, and that's what's either realistic or unrealistic. Is that accurate?
Not is, but is it plausible that it can happen? Because everybody don't think that it is. And that's my question. Do you think that there could be a time to where we have these different identities, but can still be like, okay, we have these ethnic identities, we have these national identities, we have these cultural identities, but scratch that, we are all the human race. We're gonna do away with all the differences, right? And just become one unit and have, like, I think they're trying to push it toward like a one world order. Like, right. I think that's the play. I think that's the play that the world is trying to push, to where we do away with the superficial distinction and become all under one law and just become one type of human, all under one law, regardless of race, religion, or creed.
All right. So yeah, I kind of I do agree with the gentleman who spoke before me on one point when he said that it'll take a rock hitting this planet. That's prophetic. But in regards to as of right now, no, because everybody has a different belief, and that's just going to be a fact until perhaps some type of religious, spiritual type thing happens. Whatever you want to call it. I know we all have a different belief in that regard, but the idea that all humans are going to believe that one thing, that's just, again, that's one of them not possible things. We're all going to have our own experiences. We're all going to see things from our own points of view. But as far as my belief goes, just to touch on it, I do believe that we are. And it just kind of goes down to the fact that we can procreate. All human beings on this planet can procreate male, female. And the same works with other species. So all types of cats can procreate with the other types of cats. Same things with dogs, canines. And so when you look at the human race, the idea that we're not all one human race, it's fallacious in of itself. I wish that people would come to that understanding, but I don't believe until something prophetic happens that people will come to that understanding.
Great perspective. Does anybody want to touch on it before we move forward? Because we are almost at the end. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, if GS is going to get jungle fever, does that mean he takes the midnight train to Georgia?
Definitely.
Yeah, okay.
Of course.
Yeah.
All right.
So when you say get to the end, you mean the end of your initial premise, then it'll be like an open.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Not the end of the show. Okay. That's why I didn't want to interrupt, because I thought you were trying to end the show.
No, I hope I'm not dragging it out for you guys. Like, I really want to tease this out. And
it's good, man.
Okay. If we accept the white nationalist position, doesn't that put other people at odds with them and provokes violence? So let's just grant that white nationalism is valid, right? Then what are other people supposed to do? You know what I'm saying? Like, that does put us at odds. So I would think that it would be in everybody's best interest that we do come to a one world race, or it puts everyone at odds. If anybody has a nationalist perspective and they have a conquest mentality, empire mentality, it just puts everybody at odds. So I don't know if you guys want to kind of address this a little bit. Like, I think nobody really agrees with the position, but if you guys want to take a shot at it, you can.
So taking the concept of white nationalism to mean that white political organizations will once again reappear that actually know how to do hegemony properly. if that were the definition of white nationalism, which is what I think that you're setting up there.
I think it is.
I think that any ethnicity that seeks out to conquer others, like that's just a feature of the human race, right? So whether it be white or Hispanic or Chinese or whatever, like that's just the nature of man, and I don't understand why we should concern ourselves with it. Like it's just how we are, right? It'd be like worrying about why water's wet.
No, indeed. Anybody else want to take a shot at it?
Yeah, I'll go. Yeah, in regards to that acceptance of any type of nationalist position to put one group of men over another, the key there is provoking violence. As soon as it goes to violence, you've failed the rest of that humanity, if you will, the rest of the groups, because at that point in time, the groups will naturally want to defend themselves because you are bringing force to them. If you operate based upon peace, maybe you'll do just fine. But if you go to violence, you are pretty much guaranteed, because things don't get forgotten.
I mean, but like Anson said, isn't that just the way of the world? Like, I don't know if I can see a future of where, you know, if I be honest, I believe that the world is trying to get directed in a way to where, you know, that there aren't these superficial distinctions and there will be no more war, but that takes somebody to, you know, conquer everybody. And I don't mean in the sense that colonization, like in the old days. I think the new colonization, like the neo is it neo-colonization? No, not neo-colonization, but well, let's just say neo-colonization is basically like democracy. You know what I'm saying?
It's the mind.
Well, it's the rule, you know, getting everybody on the same economic accord, getting everybody under the capitalist system. And that's the new thing, usurping indigenous, you know, governments, indigenous societies, and instituting democracy, capitalism, and now you have the economic stronghold on them. You know what I'm saying? So I think
you keep using that word like we have a capitalist country somewhere.
Oh, you don't believe that America is a capitalist country?
No, it hasn't been capitalist for like 120 years.
What is it?
It's bureaucratic authoritarianism.
I agree with you, but it still operates with capitalistic.
The only capitalist part of it is the crony part.
But what about the competition? The competition in market, though, you don't think
we don't have a free market, dude? It's
highly
regulated.
I didn't say free. I said competition.
Free. Yeah, so competition is not capitalism. Capitalism is a free market.
Well, I think competition in a free market is like the definition of capitalism.
Yeah, but we don't have competition. That's what I'm saying. We have a highly regulated system with massive barriers to entry for people. It's very hard here in the United States to start a business. We're like number 30 in the world in terms of our economic freedom index. If you want to pull that up sometime and take a look at it, we don't have, you know, we have the ideal of us being a capitalist nation because that's the propaganda we receive, right? But that's not the reality.
No, well, definitely. I'll let you come right in. I definitely agree with that, and I agree with it on a similar level. I do think the competition is in appearance because we can't break up the monopolies, right? The people who are really have the industries, right? We'll never be able to break in like the diamond market, the oil market, the big industry, communication markets, electricity markets, the markets that really matter. Can you be a small business owner? Yes, but you will still be helping the person who has the manufacturing capability, right? The people that's in the manufacturing and extracting resources are the market, right? And we are just helping these guys. So I agree with you in that sense. Does that make sense?
Sort of, but go ahead, GS. You keep trying to talk and I keep interrupting you.
No, you're doing fine. I actually wanted to kind of like dovetail on what you were saying. And I think Du kind of touched on it a little bit. I think these little things called regulations are exactly the hampering device that keeps the big boys able to play the games and the startups from having to jump through 1,000 hoops that they can ill afford to do when they're trying to start up. And which I found interesting because Trump, during his first, not to make this about Trump, but during his first term, he said, if you want to create a new regulation, you have to, get rid of what, 3?
Yeah, that was a really good rule.
Yeah. So that like what is it with Ashland? No, what Ashland? What was your name? Anson. I apologize.
That's right.
To Anson's point, the deck it's not impossible, but it is definitely a steep climb, and sometimes they throw a little grease on that slope. But I think everyone's making salient points here. I think so anyway.
Yeah, I don't think our divergence is big enough to make any gripe. I think we're seeing the same thing in different ways.
Right. To go back to the original point, though, I wanted to touch on something that Brick had mentioned. He talked about melanin. And so let's imagine that there's a world where it's just, I don't know, different shades of brown or black or whatever color we're calling it. Right. Now, what happens when the black skin brothers start getting put on by the light skin brothers? Then does it come down to like, did they put like a different like paint swatch next to you and find out like, okay, well, you're too light skin. Now you got to go. Yep. And then eventually, or you're too dark skin and you got to go. Like, do you not see this whole, when there's this one world, one color bred out of existence, it's still going to come down to who's got more melanin. Is that good or is that bad? And that can be very subjective. And I think that's the problematic part. And I think Brick rightly pointed that out in the beginning, that that's what everyone seems to be focusing on. But I heard Anson say, Anson? Gosh,
yeah.
Okay, good. I got it right. I heard Anson say it's not the color, it's the culture.
Yeah, I would say it's not the color, it's the ideology. So if people are not following, we're really talking about ideology. We're using the term, but the term has the ideology behind it. So when we're talking about white nationalism, it's the practice of it and what it entails of.
Well,
right?
well, to be fair though, due diligence. Okay.
Go ahead.
No, but to be fair, if a black diaspora has the same ideology as a white diaspora and they're identical, the only thing that's different is the melanin, then those are two identical ideologies. But the tie that doesn't bind now is the melanin, and that becomes the dividing aspect. That's the problem. Like both groups can have exactly the same ideologies, however you want to pronounce that.
I've got actually the perfect, if you'll allow me to, the perfect analogy for this. So in the American South during the 1830 census, there were 3,775 black slave owners in the American South. And they participated in the Southern system of systematic oppression of black people and benefited economically for it, right? And they were just, it would be like if there was a cohort of black people that became white nationalists in your paradigm, right? It's they are just participating in the culture and benefiting in the culture, even though they're not white, right? So is white nationalism about skin color or isn't it? Because it can't be both about culture and skin color, or is it, right? Like, well, what is it about?
Yeah, let me answer that. I think that the color dynamic of it is the distraction. It's really about the ideology. Because the way that I see it, right, we on the lower level fight about racism, white supremacy, but it's really more of a class thing. It's about power and ideology and directing the world in the way you see fit. So if I can keep you distracted about racism and, white nationalism, black nationalism, you're really not going to see that what the prompt is talking about, the elite white people really directing the world while we fight about nothing, about skin color, right? So skin color is a distraction. Ideology is the practice. And who is practicing the ideology that's keeping us separate while benefiting from it? Is the elitist class.
Bagel.
You're not one of those, are you, GS?
I'm just saying the quiet part out loud.
Oh, come on, man.
Well, speaking out
Well,
loud,
I mean, to be fair, you
chest.
thought we went to the moon. You thought we went to the moon, so we can have a discussion about that at some point.
Say it with your chest.
You sound like a boomer.
Just say it with your chest.
No,
what are you trying to say?
I can't say what I'm trying to say without violating TOS.
Man, say what you're trying to say. I'm not worried about it. Give me strut. It seems like y'all scared to say what you want to say.
No, he's using coded language because he doesn't want to get your stream taken down.
Well, say it. I don't care about getting it taken down. Say what you want to say.
So there's a vast conspiracy of people who control the banking system and have for generations, and they have large noses and like to eat bagels.
Yeah, I heard what you're saying, but that's not necessarily what I'm talking. I'm not talking about those people.
I know that's what he said. That's what I was commenting on.
Okay.
That's not what I said at all.
So you guys don't agree.
Hold on, he said that's not what he said at all. Hold on, let the man speak. What did you say?
So do you guys agree that there is an elitist class that's directing the world the way that they see fit, or at least trying to?
Yeah, of course. There's
the trying to is there for sure.
Always has been.
I think they're
always
doing more
will
than
be.
trying.
Okay. Well, I thought somebody was against what I was trying to. I'm not pointing. I don't think it's a particular ethnicity, right? Even though we do talk about some people to have, a power that's in a specific ethnicity, but I think that there's more people in that class, and I said it's more of a class thing than ethnic. I was specific when I said that. So,
what I find interesting about this as an African American, that is seemingly like even what we would call Europeans are trained not to say things about a certain group of Europeans, or they would get in trouble. See, hold on.
They're not Europeans.
You kicked them out the family? Come on, man.
They're only Europeans.
Them out the family.
So the Jays are not Europeans. I've never heard that before.
James, they're Europeans when they do Epstein and Weinstein stuff, which is oy vey. But then when they do Shabbat Shalom stuff, then.
Okay. I'm on point now.
That's fair.
Thank you.
Well, I will put it this way. So let's say that you come from humble beginnings. You don't have anything at the start, and then as you get older, you end up with something. You end up where you walk into an office, and when you walk into that office, whether it's political or company, you walk in there and you get to say basically whatever you want. And then also you surround yourself with people who are like-minded. Those things that could be wrong that are being said by you and those people around you, they're not challenged. So that power grows. And because you are in a position of power and that power increases, you're not going to let go of that. Those people around you are not going to let go of that. And that gets pushed into the ethosphere. And so that is a natural occurrence in companies, in political positions, anywhere you go. So understanding that part and knowing that is going to happen is very important, because when it comes to that position of power, certain individuals do take with them honor and certain individuals don't. And so we will see time and time again that dishonorable thing happening, and we as the masses, I guess you could say, will come to that understanding, hopefully. Does that make sense?
Indeed. So according to the definition that I read, right, and I'm going to reread it, right? Shit. So I have to go back to the beginning of my slides in order to read it. I'm at 11 right now, so y'all don't let me forget.
Holy crap, this nerd's got a slideshow. What am I, back in the army? Death by PowerPoint? What are we doing here, dude? I love it, dude. You're prepared. I love it. You're doing great, man. I'm really enjoying the show. Thanks for having me.
I don't like it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I hate it. Actually, I just
awful.
The worst show I've ever been on.
All right. So by this definition, right, the belief that white people should maintain the white identity and have a national or political system primarily for the benefit of white people, and often includes to the exclusion of immigration, multiculturalism, and diversity initiatives. Is Donald Trump a white nationalist according to this definition? GS.
I would say no. I think he respects and loves life. I think he wants war to stop. He's more of a peace advocate. He has gone out of his way to give for HBUs, historic Black universities, to not have to come hat in hand every single administration to beg for more funding. I think he earmarked a bunch of funding for him. He had gotten award after award from the Black community for being a good advocate, I guess, or an ally, so to speak. I think he's unapologetically American first, or that's what he says. I would actually say I'm seeing a whole lot of Israel first out of him lately, though. So I'm a little. I'll be honest with you. I got my eye on the guy. I'm about 70 to 75% supporting what he's doing. And for the record, I don't even trust myself 100%. So, I don't know. I'm not sold on Trump, and I'm not ready to chuck him out with the bathwater either, if that makes sense.
Anson, according to this definition, is Trump a white nationalist?
No, of course not.
Pan-African James, according to this definition, is Trump a white nationalist?
I'm not sure. I think he's for European first, for sure. White nationalist. If he was, I don't think he would be able to exude that out in the open public because of his position. So I don't think he could actually just say that out in public. But you just look at policy and you look at some of the things that he says, like some of the things that he does, like ambushing the South African president in the Oval Office with false information. I mean, that's European propaganda.
Whoa! You said false information? What are you?
Yeah, like those crosses that they had. Those crosses that they showed. Those were not of farmers that were slain.
But the songs that they were singing, right?
Yeah, that was actually. Well, that's cultural. Y'all just agreed that cultural is okay. So that's what's going on. So, see when it's cultural. So just think about if you really knew what the national anthem, what it says about Black people in the national anthem while Colin Kaepernick was sitting down. You know, you do know about that, right? About the see? Yeah, okay. And I definitely hold on.
Yeah.
I agree.
Got the smallest violin in the world.
I agree with the money sign.
I'm a victim. I'm a victim.
I agree with your money sign.
That's the smallest
I'm
violin
a victim.
in the world he's playing.
I'll just say,
I agree with your money sign
listen,
on
no, it's the world's smallest violin.
What I'm talking about is what is in the actual song.
What's in the song? I'm not familiar with the song. What's it? Every time I've heard it, it said,
"Pow, kill the boyer, pow, kill the boyer, shoot the boyer."
No, we're not talking about that song. We're talking about the national anthem.
That's real confusing lyrics there, genius.
No, we're talking about why Colin Kaepernick actually particularly said that he was sitting down based on some lyrics in the
because he was a subpar quarterback.
Yeah, well, that's cool. But we're talking about the lyrics in the song.
Well, what's wrong with the lyrics?
I know. See,
what's wrong with the lyrics?
Go look up the lyrics in the song. That is and the reason why Colin Kaepernick. No, I'm not talking about his little money grab.
Yeah, I'm
talking about what his initial reasoning why he said that he was sitting down because of the lyrics in the song. Go look up why it's offensive to African Americans. See, that's in the national anthem for the United States. But so when an African in South Africa is singing something that's culturally promoted for his particular cause, which is having the land back for his people, it's a problem.
Yeah,
you see what I'm saying?
That makes sense.
But you got all kinds of European history that's detrimental to Africans and all other kind of people that in songs and particular statues that's put up that's offensive, like the flag that they have in the South.
So the part of the
historically to African Americans,
the part of the song
you'll say that's cultural.
No, I'm going to say the part of the song that nobody ever sings that you're referencing is equivalent to the songs that are being sung about deleting white people in South Africa today. So you're drawing a really like false equivalency between the two for some reason
So
that I
you're
don't.
saying
And
the
trying to create moral
African-American-
justification for
No. That's not what
deleting
I'm
people
doing.
based on their race. Is that
I'm
what you're
just
doing?
giving a instance in history. This is not something that I'm making up, is it?
No. It's still a false equivalency though.
No,
I'm not saying you're making anything up.
How can you say it's a false equivalency?
Well, I just described why.
African Americans find it offensive.
Well, I can't control whether or not other people are going to be unreasonable.
So I'm genuinely not following.
If something in a song that's okay, just say okay, just like we'll use the
what
other
song
people.
are we talking about?
Yeah, we're not. Hold on, James.
Okay.
So we got to continue with the inquiry. We're not going to get caught up on the national anthem, whether it's offensive to who or what, like why. That's neither here nor there.
They bring up Kill the Boy. So that's why.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So, Brick Jonesy, do you believe that Donald Trump, according to the definition, is a white nationalist?
No, not at all.
So I would say yes. And it is because of what Pan-African James said. It's because of his policies. Do he want to, according to the definition, do he want to keep out immigrants? Yes.
He married a Slav. That's like the lowest level of white.
She's European.
No, she's a Slav.
Exactly.
Yeah, but compared to a Mexican, she's European.
No, you don't understand what a Slav is.
No, a Slav is a European.
But it's the trash. It's the lowest level.
Yo,
trash.
he said stay with the trash of the Europeans. That's all.
So what?
It is.
But anyway, let me.
That's better than a Mexican.
I'll let you. Hold on. I'll let you critique me after I get finished making why I believe Donald Trump is a white nationalist. When it comes, because I said because he wants to keep out immigrants, and when I say about immigrants, I don't mean like Europeans, even though he does want to keep out some Europeans, but I mean specifically like Mexicans, like dark Europeans, like he called dark Mexicans like derogatory names and stuff like that. Okay. Also, whenever you look at his business practices of the past, he wanted to keep out colored people out of his businesses also the diversity initiatives, he wants to get rid of those. Also, does he want to keep white people in power? I believe that he does. Just looking at his practices, whenever you look at his practices in policy, it implies that he wants to keep white America white. So I believe that Trump is a white nationalist from his practices. So if anybody want to say something to that, you can. If not, we moving forward. And we back at the beginning. So we finna have the open discussion part of the forum to where we can just have it out. Say what you feel. I want to revisit some of the narratives that we already went over. So if you guys, GS, if you want to come back to some of the stuff you stated, or you want to respond to my position of Trump.
Well, you said something about belief. I mean, would you believe that he is a white supremacist? Would you agree that some people believe in the Easter Bunny, some people believe in Santa Claus, and some people believe in the Tooth Fairy?
Indeed.
Does that make it true?
It does.
Because they believe it exists, then you can demonstrate that objectively?
No, sir.
Okay, so then it's not true.
No, it's my belief. I don't know if it's true or not, but I never said that it was the truth. I said that I believe it, and you kind of like buttress just my point. Like, thank you for reiterating my point. It's my belief.
Right. But I asked you, is that objectively true? Because you believe it, then that means that can be represented in actuality. Like I can object. It's like God, right? I mean, it's the God question, all in one, right? I believe in God. Can I manifest God in front of me to show you God? No,
it's absolutely not God, because the reasons that I gave like physical things. I gave actual practices. The belief in God is not circumstantial evidence. I gave circumstantial evidence, or not circumstantial. I gave substantive evidence, right? They're not proofs. It's not proofs, but it is evidence. The existence of God, you can't give any facts. You can just give belief and circumstantial evidence. I gave substantial evidence, so that's a false equivalent.
But I'm gonna no, it's not a false equivalent. You're strong man me.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna steel man your argument. You said that you believe that he is against immigrants coming into this country. You qualified by saying of a certain skin color, right? Not only has he been a proponent of legal immigration into this country, he married an immigrant. So that refutes your statement right there. And as Anson said, he married the lowest of the low. Fun fact: Slav is where the term slave comes from.
Yeah.
The most enslaved people on the face of the planet got skin color that looks like me. Now, why don't you play me a violin, James? Because my heart bleeds.
Let me respond to what you just said, because you blatantly contradicted yourself, right? You said that the fact that I said believe, can you substantiate it? No, that contradicts the word belief. I can't substantiate it. I can only provide evidence, which I did. You said, then does that mean that it's true? I said no.
I just refuted your evidence.
Yes.
Were you not listening?
Did I interrupt you? I'll let you respond.
Okay,
right?
I'll have to restate it because you weren't listening the first time. Go ahead.
No, I actually said everything that you just said. I did not misquote you. I said these are my beliefs, and then you asked me, these are your beliefs. Does it mean that it's true? I said no, but you're acting as if I'm stating that these are that it's fact that he's a white nationalist.
What is evidence if not a fact? It's a factoid. It's data points of facts.
Yeah,
you said evidence. You know what? Evidence and beliefs are different things. Evidence
is a fact, but that don't mean that I can prove it. That's why I called it circumstantial evidence or substantial evidence, but that doesn't mean that proves that he's a white nationalist. Do you understand that?
Okay, evidence is evidence. True or false?
Do you believe that my evidence proves that he's a white nationalist?
No, I just refuted
That's why I said it's my belief, GS. You're not following.
So right, but do you want to believe in the tooth fairy?
Listen,
even if
I believe in God, GS, what does that mean?
Even if I can prove to you that the tooth fairy doesn't exist.
Can we all have different beliefs? That's the question. And I think that we all can have different beliefs.
I'm okay with it. But when you say, then you throw the word evidence out there, and then when you refute the evidence that I provide that refutes your belief that he is in fact that thing. Go ahead, Brick. I'm gonna mute up.
Yeah, and I actually wanted to, if I could, ask some questions in specificity towards those statistics that you might bring up. You did mention 4 things that I can really kind of point out: keeping immigrants out, coloreds out of businesses, diversity specifically, and then whites being kept in power. Those were kind of the 4 main points that you mentioned. But in reference to keeping the immigrants out, you mentioned that it's not so much primarily the immigrants of white, I guess, race, lack of melanin, that he's keeping out, but rather individuals with melanin. And so in reference to that, I would like to hear some numbers. I don't know if you have that available to you.
No.
Well, let me just mention they just let some South Africans come in. So that I mean they're trying to do a mass deportation, but some kind of way they miraculously let some South Africans in.
They're hardworking.
Who said that they were being slaughtered?
Yeah, they're hardworking, educated farmers. We need more of those in the country, not the people that are running across the border to get entitlement.
Who do you think is on the farms in America today?
Hispanics.
By percentage, it's the Hispanics that is in the
hardworking farmers also. The same exact people that he's trying to keep out also
in America right now.
That's a good point.
No, I agree.
You don't need no South African Europeans to do no agriculture in America. Stop.
Well, that's not really relevant to my question.
Okay, I was being
it was relevant. So he asked me the question, right? So you said, could I provide some numbers? I said no, but James provided some evidence to support my claim that he's trying to keep out, the darker skinned people and letting the lighter skinned people complexion come in. So we don't have the numbers, but there's another example.
I'm sorry, but refugees. That's not immigration. Refugees are refugees. Yeah. So if
listen,
no, legally, what you're talking about is a refugee. Okay. A refugee is not counted in immigration. Immigration is someone who fills out the paperwork and says, I want to become a U.S. citizen, and takes their time and goes through the process. That's a different thing. So when someone, hold on. When someone does that process, I would like to see some numbers in reference to what you would call people with lack of melanin versus people with melanin, and that comparison or contrast.
Okay, I don't know how many times.
Let me do this.
I'm gonna let you get in, James. But I already told you that I didn't have no numbers, so it does no good to keep asking. All we can do.
Fair.
Rick, let me respond, bro. Yeah. So I don't have no numbers, right? And if you don't believe me, you're inclined to do that, right? Yes, but what we can do is show examples like what James did of him letting in white refugees, whatever you want to call them, because you could say the same thing about the darker skinned people trying to get over that he's trying to keep out, that are also refugees that are trying to get away from the atrocities that's happening in their country, but Trump still don't want those also. James.
Let me just ask, so since letting refugees get away from atrocities in their country, how many Palestinian refugees have America let into the country?
That's not what I'm asking. I'm not asking about refugees.
Well, you just said it was okay for the South African refugees.
I didn't say any. I didn't say anything about any of that.
You switched the word of why they was here.
I didn't even ask about any South African refugees. I didn't ask about Elian Gonzalez.
You said the reason why they're here because they were refugees.
Dude said he can't provide it, and that's fair.
Okay, well, I'm just going to mute out. My bad. I just thought that's what you wanted, some numbers. But anyway, go ahead.
No, because those numbers that you're talking about refugees don't come into play when we're talking about legal immigration. When someone comes into this country, whether through refugee status or illegal immigration, right, that is not counted into legal immigration. That's not a thing. But going through that process is a process.
But the point that we're like the crux of the point is about who he's letting in and who he's not letting in, regardless of the label that we placing on him. Because the thing that we're talking about is a racial issue, right? We're saying that Trump is a white nationalist and he's pro-white people, and he could let in white immigrants or refugees, whatever you want to call them, and kind of against the brown people. Like that's the crux of the argument, regardless of what you want to label them.
So I made a hyperbolic statement a moment ago about the white farmers being let in because they're going to do farming, right? But my point was, if you look past the hyperbole and understand what I'm trying to say, the only reason why we're having all of this mass immigration is to create a massive underclass of people to work for low wages, because that's the playbook for America, and it has been for a very long time. It's just like the 1800s when we had an underclass of people working for really low wages, and Irish, and that's the playbook for America, right? Yeah. And so this is just all this mass immigration is just the economic system that we have set up until we reckon with the reality of the actual system that we're using and accept it for what it is. Then we're not going to be able to change it, right? And I'm not a big fan of like needing a permanent underclass, basically in the corporate system that we have set up, right? I mean, it treats people like they're cattle. And that's the actual problem. It doesn't matter about the skin color, right? That's why I made the joke about them being farmers, right? It doesn't matter if they're white or what. The people that are going to come in are going to be victimized and mistreated because we pay higher taxes here, and basically we're treated like tax cattle, and we just need more cattle to come in and feed the system.
No, I definitely agree with that. I think it's kind of a sidebar to the conversation that we was having. Are we using like people that are, in dire situations in other countries as our labor class? Yeah. I don't think that is against the point that James was trying to make as far as the racial part of it, right? But I do think your point is valid nonetheless, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. To come back to, do we remember what the issue? What was that thing that you was talking about initially, where you tried to go to when you was talking about GS, in Africa, something was going on over there. You was making an historical argument about what was going on over there compared to what was going on in America.
Well, it's kind of interesting because, well, this could get tinfoily because I think everyone's heard of the Mandela effect. Because my own daughter, who's a millennial, by the way, did an actual report on the death of Mandela because she remembers being reported that he died in prison, but somehow he was miraculously alive. So that's a little Mandela effect that she personally has experienced. That said, there was a post-apartheid South Africa. There was a pre-apartheid South Africa. Before that point in time, before it got to the way it was, there were land deals made 400 or 500 years ago. Some of these white South Africans are just as much of an Afrikaans as the black South Africans, right? I mean, they've been there, they bled, they did peace treaties, they did land purchases, they fought in war treaties against other tribes trying to take from these smaller tribes. They banded together. They did what everyone has done throughout history. They either conquered or they were conquered, right? And then what happened is post-apartheid, then the government has a reverse affirmative action system going. Well, what does that mean? In America, they try to give benefit to the minority to give them a hand up or a leg up or a step up. In Africa, if there's 93% of the population is black South African, then if there's a factory that has 100 jobs available, 93 of those jobs have to be, by mandate of the government, captured by black Africans, regardless of their qualifications. Thus, the infrastructure is falling apart all the time. Right. And even there's I forget the name of the gentleman. I think it's Kanu. That's like Kanu. He's been on the stage recently. In a lot of these African languages, there's no word for maintenance. They don't have a word for maintenance. That's why all the infrastructure and the railway falls apart everywhere. Whereas the same rail that was built in England is still running and being operated and maintained, but where it was built and where they colonized in other cultures, it's deteriorated and fallen apart and it's no longer usable. So the statement is Johannesburg had the state-of-the-art hospital in the world at the time. The world. The best hospital in the world. And now it's fallen to crap because they've got reverse affirmative action. It's kind of weird when whitey's the minority. It's go F yourself. The chickens come home to roost. Suck it, Trebek. And next question. But when everyone else is minorities, we got to roll out the red carpet for them. We got to give them a soft place to fall. We got to make sure that all the corners and sharp edges are bubble wrapped. Make sure they got their soft little helmets on so they don't hurt their little tootsie up here. You know.
I wanna take this point by point, GS, because you said a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you started off with the apartheid, right? And then you're talking about the land deals and stuff like that. And I think let's not be disingenuous. And I'm not calling it, let's talk about, I'll take that back because it kind of implies that I'm trying to say that you're being disingenuous. But we have to look at it whole from whole 360, right? And like you said, whenever you talk about, a foreign people coming in, making deals with people who don't have a concept of ownership of land like other people do, like the Native Americans, like some of the Africans, and these people are tribal people, and these people are nomadic people, and then don't even necessarily speak the language, and then letting these people sign contracts that they don't even have authority to do in the whole first place, and then trying to make these people honorable to these contracts that they don't even know what the fuck they doing. You know what I'm saying? So that's one aspect of it. Another aspect of it, whenever you talk about people during this time, and you talk about the differences of the culture, right? You're right. These people don't have an industrial mindset. Does that mean that the European then can come and just occupy these people's land because they don't know what to do with their resources and then exploit it and take it to other people, get rich off of it, and then don't give them none of the spoils? I don't know, but if people do it, that just is what it is. But there's 2 points. You said I'm trying to catch up to everything you said, but
you're going off in a whole different direction, bro. But
really?
we can address what you're saying.
I went in the whole direction. These were points that you made, yes.
Yeah, what are you talking about, bro? I talked about working in conjunction with the South Africans that were being raided by a bigger Zulu tribe in order to preserve their smaller tribe. They made deals with the boyar, the white farmers that fled the tyranny of the British, the Dutch fled the tyranny of the same crown that you're accusing all Europeans of being.
No. I think we're talking past each other. I apologize.
Wait.
I thought you was talking about something else. When I'm talking about apartheid, I'm talking about the Europeans coming in and occupying African land. That part, the beginning.
They didn't occupy it.
How is it not occupied? What do you mean?
What do you mean occupy? I just explained it. They either did conquest, which is the law of conquest has been recognized universally.
They took
except for when Whitey does it. Except for when Whitey's good at war. Suddenly we gotta fucking be fair. Suddenly we gotta be all polite.
So
we gotta raise our hand.
And the 93%.
We gotta take our fucking time.
Hold on, James. Hold on, James.
What you telling us?
Hold on, James.
Candy ass fucking logic right there. That's
nobody is talking. Then GS. All I'm saying is say it with your fucking chest because you didn't say it like that.
That's twice now. That's twice you haven't heard the words coming out of my mouth.
So GS, you're absolutely right. The law of conquest absolutely was in play, and it still is, and that's why the Boers are being pushed out because they no longer have the power.
They're being pushed out because the government has seized. The vast amount of taxes are paid by white farmers. True
and the same things happened in Rhodesia, in Zimbabwe.
No, you're not wrong. So what your argument is that white people should go into South Africa, invade it, take over the country again, go back to apartheid.
So
that's what you're arguing.
Yo, you wild.
That's the solution to the problem that you're proposing right now, right?
Exactly.
It's not a proposal. It's actually being demonstrated in real life.
Well, you're acting as if the African are playing
and then everyone's
victims, but then you're being victim on the white side. So which one? Can it be both? Can it be both? Because it sounds like you're being the victim for the European side of it.
No, not at all.
And discrediting like the African. That's what it sounds like.
Not at all. It's sink or swim. That's my motto. But what I hear is I'm a victim. I'm a victim from James. James is just a victim and everything. Get good at war, kid. Get good at war. Get good at war, kid.
I got it.
Quit bitching. The South African boyar should get good at war. Quit bitching.
I mean, but what's happening now? It sounds like you bitching now because they taking back their shit and kicking it out. And what you're saying is, they're not able to keep up their own shit. So, James, let me finish. You can come in after me, bro. Don't talk over me. I'm not talking over him. Come in after me. But it sounds like you're crying now because now they're getting the white people to fuck up out there because they realize what's going on. It's just like, now the white people came in and fixed up your shit. You're kicking us out. Fuck that. We came in and fixed it up. You can't take care of your own shit, right?
Yeah, that's what happened in Rhodesia and Zimbabwe. That's the arc of what's happened in lots of different former colonies where the white people were in charge in Africa and they were pushed out by the socialist black people.
Okay, so now let's deal with this. And I'm glad you guys said this, right? So let's go through it, right? And that is absolutely true, right? Let's deal with this right here, right? Don't trip because that's a fair point. So let me just read this. I got it. Neo-colonialism, right? In simple terms, neo-colonialism refers to the way powerful countries indirectly maintain control over other countries, especially former colonies, through economic, political, or cultural influence rather than direct military rule. It's like a modern version of colonialism without the direct administration. So this is what we're really dealing with because they try to act like when these people leave that they are not still really in economic struggles, like they are still not empowered and like they still don't have control over the resources. Hold on, let me finish. I'm going to let you come. The term neo-colonialism was originally applied to original European policies that were seen as schemes to maintain control of African and other dependencies. The event that marked the beginning of this usage was a meeting of European heads of government in Paris in 1957, where 6 European leaders agreed to include their overseas territories within European Common Market under trade agreements that were seen by some national leaders as and groups representing a new form of economic domination over French-occupied Africa and the colonial territories of Italy, Belgium, and the Netherlands. The agreement reached at Paris was codified in the Treaty of Rome, which established European Economic Community of the Market. Hold on, I'm going to get to the point, right? Neo-colonialism came to be seen more generally as involving a coordinated effort by former colonial powers in other developed countries to block growth in developing countries and retain them as a source of cheap raw materials and cheap labor. This effort was seen as closely associated with the Cold War, in particular with the U.S. policy known as the Truman Document. Under that policy, the U.S. government offered large amounts of money to any government prepared to accept U.S. protection from communism. That enabled U.S. to extend. That enabled the United States to extend its sphere of influence, and in some cases, to place foreign governments under control. The United States and other developed countries also ensured and subordination of developing countries. Critics argue by interfering in conflicts and helping other ways to install regimes that were willing to act for the benefit of foreign companies and against their own country's interests. Hold on, I'm going to get to the point. Colonial disruption and destruction under pre-colonial systems, right? Before colonialism, many African societies and complex political, economic, cultural systems, right? The Mali Empire, for example, right, was one of the richest empires in Africa, right? The Kingdom. These are African empires that was doing just fine before colonialism. And then after colonialism, let me get to the point. Colonialism disrupted these systems, right? Replacing indigenous leaderships with foreign rule, destroying local industries that they already had, right? Colonialism come and occupy a territory that where people aren't at, and then consume all the rest of the fucking shit, and then set up democracy and act like they did a motherfucker favor, and reoriented economies to serve Europe, right? Extracting this shit, and then wanting us to be grateful for, or wanting Africans to be grateful for. European powers divided Africa at the Berlin Conference, if you are not familiar, with regard for economic, cultural, and linguistic realities. This caused economic tensions to lead to conflicts like Rwanda, Nigeria, and the war, right? Colonialism, economic dependence, and foreign control. After formal colonialism ended, right? Control didn't end; it changed form, right? France, CFA, the French system still controls the currency in 14 African countries. That means in order to do anything to get a loan, you have to go to the French government in order to do the things that you want to do economically, right? To participate in commerce, to participate in so-called capitalism, you have to go to these people, and they deny people these type of things, right? The IMF World Bank structure adjustment programs for its cuts to education, healthcare, local industry in exchange for loans, keeping countries poor and independent. Western corporations continue to exploit African natural resources, often in collusion with corrupt local elites, right? They put these puppet Africans in there and give them crumbs, right? And it looks like in appearance we have Africans running the country, but it's really not. These are already puppets, and these people don't really have control of their country, right? But in appearance, they look like that. I'm gonna let you go. Go ahead. Let's go.
Yeah. So
what do you have to say?
You're absolutely correct. I'm not going to take up for interventionist foreign policy by other nations, other than to say that maybe Africa should have done that themselves, and instead of being victims. But it's not just Africa, right? It's lots of different countries across the entire globe. Other countries do this to other countries all the time throughout history, right? It's not just about Africa, right? This is just the nature of the way people, interact with one another, right? There have been empires all throughout history that have done this sort of thing, right? So what is the point of the history lesson is what I'm getting at.
You're on mute.
You're on mute, dude.
The point is, I was getting to GS's point, is that Africans can't take care of their own stuff without Europeans, and things just crumble. And I agree that that's the case, but the thing is, it's intentional, right? We looking at it from the outside perspective, but from the inside perspective, there are other things that's going on. It's more nuanced, and Africans just can't take care of their own shit. And the point that you also made, Anson, right? Because it is true. When they leave, it does crumble, but these people still have a stronghold on the economy. These people are still using outside people's money. These people don't have the technology to extract their own resources. These people don't have the technology. These people don't have the knowledge, right? And it was set up for intentionally. So I'm not saying we should be victims, right? But if I say, then we should just go and slaughter these motherfuckers, you will feel some type of way too. You know what I'm saying? And that's just the reality though. So I agree with y'all that these things are happening, but we have to have a more nuanced discussion. It's not because Africans just don't know how to take care of their own shit. It's because there's still an economic stronghold on these places. Go ahead, GS.
No, yeah, I want to respect your platform because I think these are important conversations to have. And I think we're all being gentlemen here, even if it might get a little passionate, we might raise our voices. So due diligence, if I agree with your argument, let's just pick a place in Africa where the white man is pillaging the land by taking the gold or the diamonds, right? Let's just pick a place. And let me ask you a question. Before the invention or the on the grand stage, until germ theory came onto the grand stage, an Occidental would not last probably much more than 5 or 6 months in the continent of Africa before succumbing to pathogens, parasites, any number of things that they're not used to growing up in, before they had any kind of penicillin or any kind of thing like that. That stuff has always been there. Always. Up until the point where the white man came and showed you where your water aquifers were, how to build a structure taller than 2 stories, and to adopt the wheel in some places that they rejected it for over 1,000 years on the continent before they accepted the technology of the wheel. Those resources were always there. But because you lack the wherewithal, the capacity, or the technical know-how to achieve the ability to harness it, is your fault, not our fault.
So let's say I grant you those things. And
is it not a fact?
Did I disrupt you? Interrupt you?
So you say, let's say I grant this. Can you look back in history? Well, why didn't they dig up all the diamonds and the gold?
Yes, you gotta let me respond. I'm going to respond, right? Because what you did say is to act like Africans didn't have inoculation, like vaccine protection.
No. We could not live. We could not survive on the continent of Africa for more than 5 or 6 months without succumbing to pathogens and illnesses, because we didn't have germ theory at the time. We didn't understand what was attacking our bodies. We wouldn't survive. So we couldn't go into the interior for let's say 50,000 years. All that gold and all those diamonds were, guess where they were? And the water, guess where it was? Underneath the ground. Why didn't you get it? Why didn't you get it?
So let me respond to you. So I misunderstood the first part. Granted, right? So to your second part, the fact that people and so if you take like Ghana or the Mahdi Empire, these people definitely dug up their own gold, diamonds, and other materials. Africans were some of the first people that actually were able to do it. Like Europeans actually learned from Africans how to extract minerals out the ground. You know what I'm saying? Africans was doing this way before Europeans was on the scene. But let me just tell you this part, right? What if Africans don't put the same amount of value that Europeans did and were willing to kill, steal, and rob over it? And then you come with a savage mentality, right, and want to steal people's shit and take people's shit, and then you try to justify like, hey, you didn't know what to do with your own shit. Well, maybe they weren't concerned with doing the things that you want to do with their shit, and it's their shit. So who are you to come and just take some motherfucking shit who don't want to do what you want to do with it? Like, so the fuck what? I can argue. Hold on. So I can argue. Let me finish my point. I did not interrupt you. So I could argue the straight opposite. I could argue and say Europeans were some savage, brute, stupid motherfuckers that put value on rocks and metal that Africans didn't, right? And they didn't care to do it. But Europeans were so fucking greedy, right? They want to come in and fucking be a savage in order to do that type of shit. So what about that?
Okay, so your argument is, what if your premise is, and I'll grant it, What if they didn't hold value to diamonds and gold? What if they didn't see it as valuable? Then what are you fucking bitching about when the white man comes and takes the invaluable stuff or the non-valuable items? What are you fucking complaining about? Your premise is retarded, dude.
I just made the point that when you come in,
I'm getting ready to roll out, dude.
All right, you want to get some last words before you go, or what?
Nah, I'm good. Peace. I mean, it was pretty cool being on the panel. All right. I wanted to ask some questions, but I'm good. All right, peace, everybody.
Peace.
So again, your premise. If I accept your premise, dude, if I am maximum charity, I say, okay, granted, these people did not value gold and diamonds. Then what are you complaining about them stealing gold and diamonds? Which your claim is that they didn't see value in it. What's the big deal? What do you care? What are you complaining about? You just bitching to bitch?
I'm talking about the exploitation, the neo-colonialism, the whole history lesson that I just gave, and why it does matter, because you put people in economic slavery once you do that. Now, if you could come in and get it without making, economic slaves, without doing it, or come in without people's permission and stuff like that, that then becomes the issue. But it's not the point that they didn't value. We're talking about the point that y'all did, or not y'all, but Europeans did, and could be seen like as savage in order to do the things that they did. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So how else would they have gotten the resources that were there? Because the cultures were so drastically different that in order to utilize them, the people in Africa had to be civilized.
So I want you to Google the oldest smelting mines that they have. I think it's like smelting, extracting, making gold. These are Africans people, so they could do it. They just didn't do it to the extent that white people did, that European did. So,
right, because they weren't industrialized, right? And so it's there's a benefit also to having had the Europeans come in and the cultural exchange that occurred, because
we'll stop right there. Stop right there. I want you to hold that point. That may be so in the Western mindset, but you cannot come and industrialize people that don't want to be industrialized. What if they want to stick to their indigenous culture? What about that? You see, that is an arrogant position to come from, to impose capitalization, industrialization on people who never asked for it. So you can say that there is a benefit, but people might not want it.
Right. Well, and if people don't want to progress to the next level of human evolution and stay stuck in the, Bronze Age, then that's up to them, right? Or the Iron Age, or whatever it was they were stuck in when the Europeans found them, right? Like that's why the Indians in the United States fell so quickly, right? Because they were Bronze Age, warriors who were basically just confronted with a massively advanced civilization, and it caused them to be wiped out, right? So if you're saying,
hold on, stop right there, because I don't think you understand the arrogance and what it is that you're saying, right? Because you're presupposing that people weren't already civilized, right? Because you'll look at people that's from the outside perspective and see people that don't wear the same clothes as you. I may want to run around naked and think that that's not civilized. Or maybe look at people that don't live in big societies that's nomadic and say that that's not civilized. You don't respect other people's cultural differences. Just because people aren't doing what you're doing here in the Western world, you then can't then call them uncivil and then come and genocide these people and say you're the one bringing civilization.
Well, doesn't that sound
like barbarious?
I didn't say that. I didn't say anything about justifying genocide or any of that stuff. I was just talking about the positive aspects of the exchange of culture. The same thing happened with the Native Americans in the United States.
Because you're calling it positive.
It is positive.
It could be, but if people didn't ask for it, then you're not doing nobody no favor.
Oh, there ain't no culture in the world that don't force people to do things they didn't ask for.
That's like the husband who beats the crap out of his wife and says,
I agree with that.
Tells her, say thank you that I beat the crap out of you.
But it's the arrogance in which y'all come from, and you doing somebody a favor, which is not necessarily the case, because some people want to keep their indigenous ways, right? Is that valid?
Yeah, no,
because you want to call it Stone Age, Bronze, and primitive, right? But these people are still civil people, right? They weren't savage. They weren't killing each other necessarily. Everybody has wars and everything, but we're talking about a savage people, or people that's not civilized, don't have respectable ways, right? these people still have respectable ways among themselves. These people are still civil.
I didn't say that they didn't have like culture that is worth dignity and respect, right?
Well, when you say bringing people into civilization, it implies that they are not civil.
In terms of bringing them into the modern age of industrialization, that's I was looking at it strictly from economic terms in the way that people who
medicine.
Medicine, things like it, people who are in advanced industrial societies have better life expectancy. They have all sorts of benefits that wouldn't exist in Africa had the evil white man not colonialized it.
Right. So, but it's weird because, and to kind of springboard on that, I hear what you're saying. There's a beauty. Like if you drop me in the middle of the Serengeti, and I've said this before, I would hope that there would be a beneficial tribe that might take pity on my blistering in the sun ass and keep me from dying out there in the Serengeti. Right. I would think that their ability to live in that environment would be far superior to mine. Thus, they would have a superior technological advance to me just getting dropped there, trying to figure out how to find water, food, make a weapon, shelter, all these different things that I would have to struggle with, right? So, but you're kind of talking out of both sides of your mouth. I like the elegance of what you're saying. Some people just want to be left alone, and I agree. But life's not fair. The battlefield's not flat. But you said that these Africans taught Europeans how to basically wash their nasty asses. And then you say that they want to stay in the Stone Age. That's kind of, these things, these ideas are a little bit incongruent. Or if I'm to grant your premise that Africans, which I would argue African Egyptians aren't, they're technically Africans, but they're really not. I would agree that the Egyptians were the penultimate civilization of the time. They were freaking amazing. And they probably did teach most of the world how to wash their nasty asses.
Yep.
But if we're not talking sub-Saharan African with a sub 60 IQ level, okay, that ain't happening, bro. All right. That's just some fucking Wakanda fucking nonsense, right? All right. That ain't happening. All right. So let's just be realistic here. Right. Let's be realistic here. You can't be advanced and retarded at the same. And I don't mean retarded as in mentally. I mean like not advanced. The opposite of advanced. You retard the timing on your Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So after this, I want to bring in David Wayne. I've never spoke to this guy before, but
he's a decent dude. He's one of my members.
Okay. So, GS, this is the arrogantness that I'm talking about, right? Because you keep saying these people want to be stuck in like the Bronze Age or whatever age that they may be in.
You said it.
Okay, I said it, right? So, but the thing to look down upon it like it is a negative, right? So you saying that I can't have it both ways. I'm not trying to have it both ways. I'm saying let people be, and then don't come and act like you're doing people a favor whenever there's a lot of the negative connotation that comes with it also, right? It's the arrogantness that I don't like, right? But you are right. Life is life, and colonization is colonization, and shit happened. But I don't think you guys can like see past your nose when you talk about, hey, you know what I'm saying? Like we coming, it's like the argument, right? That Europeans came and brought Africans Jesus, and you did them a favor by wiping out their own guys, and bringing them to Jesus. Like
incorrect.
Hold on.
Incorrect. Christianity, the Ethiopian Bible existed before the King James Bible did.
I'll let you speak after I speak, right? But I'm talking about generally speaking, right? You have Christians that'll say that Africans should be thankful that they was brought Jesus and wiped out their guys through.
I just told you're wrong. Ethiopian Bible existed long before the Europeans understood Jesus. I just corrected you live.
I'm not disputing
you're
that.
Doubling down like a dog.
But you're missing my point. I'm saying, generally speaking, you have some Christians that argue that they did Africans a favor by taking them away from their indigenous gods and introducing them to Jesus. I'm not saying all Africans. I agree that Ethiopia had an Ethiopian, the Coptic Bible and shit like that. That's fine. Right, but it's the same argument in principle that you're acting like you're doing people a favor they ain't never asked for.
You keep putting words into everyone's mouths. Let me speak for me. You speak for you, bro. I don't have a problem speaking for myself.
No, you did say you guys are bringing people
rearranging
into
people's
civilization
sentences.
as if they asked for it or something like that. No,
Dude,
nobody
dude,
asked for it. You could have kept your
you're
ass
better
where
than
you was
this. You're
at,
better than
and
this.
everything would have just been fine. No, that's your perspective, arrogant guy.
No, I gave you the premise. If you drop me in the middle of the Serengeti, now was I being arrogant when I said I would have to rely on the benevolence of a tribe?
Yes,
Yeah, I guess I was being arrogant then, right?
Wayne has to say we keep talking past each other.
Yeah,
So
you're like my future ex-wife. You have selective hearing.
Bet. David Wayne, welcome to the panel. You want to add anything?
Yeah, I had a couple of points when I started to jump on, but I had a couple more kind of develop. Why would you not go into, the headhunter tribes, the ones that, the cannibal tribes? Why would you not go into a cannibal tribe? What would be the logic behind not going into a cannibal tribe? You know what would happen, right?
Why wouldn't I go into a cannibal tribe? What's the context? I don't get what you. Why would I go into a cannibal tribe? You got to give me some context.
Okay, I'll get there. Let's start with: is Trump only deporting illegal aliens?
Is Trump?
Is he only deporting illegal aliens, the ones that came over here illegally? Or do you think it's just because they're not?
I don't think so. I don't think he's only deporting illegal aliens. I think he's deporting people that break the law, that are legal, that are legal citizens, but from somewhere else. No, he's not only deporting illegal immigrants. No.
So he's deporting illegal immigrants or people that become illegal by other actions?
Or is it? Or is it because they're not white?
No.
You think he's a white nationalist because he's only deporting those that are not white?
No.
Why do you think he's a white nationalist?
Because generally speaking, he fits the definition to what I read of what a white nationalist is.
Well, I don't think he does, because I think that he doesn't value race more than he values things like effort and loyalty. I think
he doesn't have time to vet all of these people to know whether or not what color they are.
But just based on his personal behavior with the people that he interacts with, I'd say it's a very fair estimation that he really only cares about effort and loyalty. Like those are his main two criteria that he uses to judge whether or not he hires or fires somebody.
To the country.
I don't know, but I spoke about his policies on brown people and immigration, and I spoke to his previous business practices where he didn't want black people to be in his own businesses, and I talked the different aspects about in the definition. There was one more, I can't remember it, but I gave instances to where he fit the definition, and y'all just saying no because other stuff that's outside the definition, so we can agree to disagree.
How about him advocating for policies that made prison reform, right? That reduced the number of black people that were being put upon by the prison system that he enacted during his first term? Or what about his policies where the HBCUs had to keep coming back and asking for more funds, and he made their funding permanent instead of making them come back to Congress every once in a while and beg for money, right?
Yeah, I don't think those things are against white nationalism as far as keeping white people in power. I don't think that it affects the power structure. I think he can do those things and it doesn't affect white power.
Well, no, but then what would? What would?
Wow.
I think keeping brown people out of the country that can potentially affect elections, and also absorbing white people, and things of this nature. The things that I named, these things can potentially affect white power as a whole if they get absorbed. If they keep letting brown people in, they also can affect election and swing different ways that that'll be against white power.
You're confirming Obama was gay for legalizing gay marriage then, right? That's
that's
so
a
that's
good
why
point.
Obama legalized gay marriage.
Yeah, no,
because
that's the
he
only
himself
possible
was-
explanation. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
got to be a homo, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
I agree.
yeah.
Well,
Absolutely.
he is married to
Absolutely.
Big Mike after all, right?
Absolutely.
Big Mike be
Okay.
packing.
Next question. Did you want to say anything else? Because I thought Anderson wanted to say something or Brick wanted to say something. I think we winded down. Y'all can
Oh, we're just getting started. Don't run from it now. I
Let's
see you
go.
climbing it. You
Oh,
climbing up the
man.
backboard. I'm trying.
wanna
I
hear
got you by
something
the
about
hip.
I said
I'm
it.
gonna pull
Let's
you
hear-
back
let's
into
hear
it, due
Brick.
diligence.
Let's go. I'm with it.
Take,
Let's hear
take
I
Brick.
it,
do have
man.
questions as well.
Say something, Brick.
Trying
Let's
to
go.
climb up the backboard.
Yeah. So I mean, again, I know that you mentioned you don't have necessarily stats on the immigrants. So there's a couple of other things. You mentioned keeping coloreds out of business, people with melanin out of certain types of businesses, or is there like some specificity in that? Like, can you bring, no, can you bring to light some of those things? Because I do understand to an extent what you're saying. But also I also understand that there are certain types of businesses that, quite honestly, it really wouldn't make sense for people with lack of melanin to even be in.
I didn't really understand that question. Can you like restate it? Like what do you mean? I didn't really understand it.
So
What,
regarding
like
Trump,
barbershops and stuff.
so regarding Trump specifically, if he is promoting white nationalism or even is one, is there any specific businesses or business models that he's targeting that would be refusing to allow black ownership or black employment, or anything that would be, because you mentioned whites kept in power, I'm going to kind of lump that in together with it, any statistical data or any data in general that could kind of provide evidence specifically for that type of action on Trump's part?
Yes. I'll do you one better, right?
Okay.
I gave the evidence that I have, but I would say that Trump is a white nationalist, and I would say for good reason. I don't think it's anything wrong with white nationalism. I don't see it as a negative. I believe that white people are valid in believing that since they founded this country and they want to keep it white per se, that is valid. I don't try to invalidate that. I just mean that we as other minorities, we should act accordingly too. I don't see nothing is wrong with it, even though it has negative implications to me. I'm not a victim, right? So you guys, I don't want you to hold on. Let me stand on my position. So I'm not a victim. All that means to me is that I should just act accordingly. If we are at war, then we at war. That's fine with me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying that is the case. I'm saying if it is the case, right? I don't have an issue with it. You know what I'm saying? I don't have an issue with people.
Hold on. Let him finish, because I'm going to have a follow-up to this.
So to do you one better, I don't have any evidence with numbers and all that you were asking, but I don't see it as negative objectively, right? I think subjectively, people just need to act accordingly if we know that is the case, and that's reality.
And that's fair. And I will accept that you don't have any data. I would ask simply that, do you believe, considering the fact that in both instances where I've asked specific points, that since you don't have data, it would be more beneficial to bring to the table actual data points?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, you did have data ready. You had you went on, and I'm glad that you did. By the way, round of applause, man. I mean, you're absolutely surrounded. James fled like you wouldn't believe. He snuck off like a thief in the night.
I agree.
Listen, hey,
awesome panel.
Hats off to you, bro. You're standing 10 toes. I respect that.
Yeah.
And
I only disagree with one thing that you continually say, and it's the implication that you should be deserving of any pride in your immutable characteristic of the way that you're born. And I think that it is the centerpiece of of the problem in your thinking, where you don't see a problem with white nationalism because of your own pride in your own race. And I'm going to say this again because I said it before. Race is just a social construction, right? There's more genetic variation within the Black community than there is different between the different races in general, right? There's more, and the same goes for white people. There's more genetic differences between the different kinds of white people than there are really between you and I. Right. What I'm trying to say is that the racial groups are really only just imaginary lines that we draw. Right. You just look a little bit different. But to be honest with you, like if your sister and I hooked up, we'd make some beautiful babies, you know, like, I don't know if you have a sister or not, but that's what I'm saying. Right. That it would be beautiful.
My children are mixed, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and
yeah, okay.
I also want to say that I agree with you. Right. But I don't like to deal with I don't like to put my ideals before my realism. Right. And what I mean to say when I say that is the reality is that it's teams. And I wish that it wasn't. But being that there is teams, I'm not going to act like that is not. Right. I believe that white nationalism exists and I should act accordingly. So I'm not saying that I accept it and I want it to be this way. No, I want it to be the ideal to where we all are one people. But I'm not going to act like that it's not. So it's not necessarily my position, but I'm saying I'm forced the hand that I have because I have to respond to white nationalism. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, so you're taking a reactionary stance, right?
Indeed.
And so nationalism in and of itself is generally reactionary, right? Because historically humans didn't think of themselves in terms of nations. That's somewhat of a modern conception, right? Prior to that, we thought of each other in terms of our cultural identity or our religious identity or some other marker that made us the way that we were. Nationalism is a very modern thing, and that's why I have such a problem with that being something that's a source of pride as well. Right? Like the concept of Europe didn't exist a few hundred years ago. It was Christendom because it was the place where Christianity was, and that was the culture of the land, and it had more importance and value to the people of Europe than the nation states did. Right? The concept that they were all under one banner, and it was the empire of God that they were living in. Right? And so these nationalist distinctions, when you add pride for two different social constructions and combine them, it's very detrimental to the things that you should value in other people that aren't related to the things that you had no control over in your life, right? You should only have pride in things that you spent your entire life toiling toward, that you on your deathbed know, I left something better for someone else, right? That's the thing that you should only feel pride for. And all of these things that people go around feeling pride for today, like their gender or other ridiculous concepts, right, that they didn't actually work for, is super harmful. I consider a Skittles person to be the equivalent level of delusional as someone who is a racial nationalist of some kind.
Mm-hmm. So I would say I agree with you to a certain extent. I don't take an issue with people having pride in their ethnic identity or their heritage, but it's when it becomes to the exclusion of others is when it becomes a problem. Because you can have pride, right, and then feel indifferent to somebody else. Like, I don't care what you are, but I have pride in what mine is. But that don't mean I have to oppress nobody. I have a nationalistic perspective to where I have to stomp you out, take your resources because, I then become, so the thing is, it's okay to have pride, but when it comes to like using your pride as a means to do harm to others, that is really the issue. I don't think pride in and of itself is an issue, right?
So does the lion have to apologize for eating the lamb?
I'm not a victim, GS.
No.
Hold on, man. Absolutely not.
Hold
absolutely
on.
not.
You and James were
I'm asking
spouting
for no apologies.
I didn't mean to interrupt you while I was talking. Go ahead, due diligence.
I didn't ask for no apologies.
Can I talk now? You're not going to let me talk? You going to let me talk? Okay. I've been hearing a whole lot of victim noises coming out of the melaninly gifted side of this conversation. Yeah, bro, replay the tape, man. There's a whole lot of the colonist, the evil colonist is good at war, and that makes me feel all shucky darn kind of bad. And I just keep saying, get good at war, kid, or shut up. That's it. And you might come to my house, kick my ass, take everything I own, and the government might look the other way. And guess what? Now you got some generational wealth. Now the difference between a man in the West is that we plant trees whose shade we might not ever enjoy, or build cathedrals that might take 2 lifetimes to complete and never sit in a mass. Right? There's a big difference between immediate gratification. You ever see that experiment with the kids? They give them 2 marshmallows. They say, if you wait 5 minutes, we'll double those marshmallows. And it's an IQ test, because if you can allay your need for immediate gratification and not just woof down those marshmallows, you're going to keep doubling it every 5 minutes. And pretty soon you'll have enough marshmallows to sell. And then you become a rich business owner. You might corner the market on marshmallows if you have high enough IQ. But if you just want to shovel really marshmallows in your mouth.
Are you really talking to me like a child right now?
No, I'm giving an example about the difference between the ability to allay immediate gratification.
Oh, so you saying that's what Africans are? Africans are the equivalent to kids compared to Europeans because we just want instant gratification?
No, dude, I said what I said. Why are you reframing? This is what I'm talking about. You jumble up my words and make it into something incoherently.
No, he's saying, what were you applying that
like
to?
What I originally said, dude.
Well, then what was that scenario applying to? Because I got the same thing that he said. You were applying that to Africans in Western society.
So I'll just go ahead and do it, since y'all are dancing around it and GS didn't say it. I think one of the main problems with Africa is that in general their IQ is significantly lower than all of the other continents.
Okay, well, someone who's going to say something like that should know that Africa is the fucking continent.
Oh, here we go. He's triggered. You got a libtard.
So I want to hold on. I want to welcome Steelman to the panel.
Oh yeah.
What's up, bro? Go ahead.
Right on. Thanks. Good to see you.
Put some earbuds in there, dude. You're ruining his audio quality.
So do you want to speak to that point?
Well, I don't know. Is my audio coming in weird or something?
Nah,
you got a little bit of echo. Just a tiny bit of echo.
You got a little bit of echo, but I think people can understand what you're saying.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I got the point you did too. Was I don't know what he was talking about the marshmallows for if he wasn't talking about Africa in the West, but if he wants to dodge that, then that's fine. I got on for, there's a few different points I've been listening for a couple of hours. One of the things I noticed is that, well, like as an anthropologist, cultural anthropologist, we have cultures that we don't mess with, right? Like, for example, the Aboriginals in the Amazon. If you think it's so great to be in the industrial civilization or whatever, industrial era and all this shit, why don't we go down to the Aboriginal? That was one of the arguments that was made, was that we're actually helping.
Let them finish. Let them finish, and you can respond.
Yeah, and I wasn't saying one particular person. I was talking about maybe not you, but maybe somebody else on here. But the point is that if we're doing these Aboriginals a favor by going in and pulling them out of what you call, the sticks and stones, and bringing them into what you think is this great industrial era, right? I'm saying, then do you really think that it's best for the Aboriginals and the Amazon jungle, for example, who are just living off of basic, they don't have any industry? Are you saying that they'd be better off getting jobs, working at Arby's, working in factories and shit like that?
I never said any of that stuff.
He was talking to GS. It was in response to GS, not answer.
Holy liberals, Batman. Can you just respond to what we say instead of rephrasing everything and jumbling up some word nonsense salad bar? Holy crap, dude. Engage in good faith.
I know it's hard for you to fucking understand a point, GS. I apologize. I'm not talking about marshmallows. Let me dumb it down for you. You talk about marshmallows. Does that make it easier for you to understand the fucking question?
Holy shit, dude. You're so disingenuous.
Are you just butthurt because you kicked me off your fucking panel? Because
dude, eat some meat, dude. You sound like you got low T. Eat some meat.
So I want to answer. I want to respond to the point that Anson brought up, since nobody wants to respond to what Stillman said, right? So to the point that generally speaking, the people on the African continent generally have a lower IQ than Europeans. You mean what exactly?
Well, no, just like
I never even said that.
No, I said that because you didn't say that, and now he can have the conversation with me because it's actually been said.
Jeez,
So
Mike, you
yes,
guys are
it is. It is a statistical fact that Africa specifically has.
Can you mute your fucking mic, retard?
Steelman.
Jesus.
So in terms of IQ as it's been
Am I
studied,
hearing me
the
talk?
inhabitants.
Yeah, just while you're not speaking, that'd be great, man. Thank you.
Like, what's going on with my mic, dude? I don't even talk to you.
Yeah,
Reverb.
I don't
you're
know.
echoing.
Why don't you
Just
why don't
while
you
you're
some
not
meat
speaking,
and figure it out?
when you do speak, turn it on.
Yes, you think you're so fucking great because you fucking kill people for the shit you do.
He's gonna spurg. Oh, he's spurging over here. I'm spurging over here.
So
Go ahead.
it's a statistical fact that Africa as a continent has the lowest IQ in terms of inhabitants because it's been studied, right? And I made the very cogent point that that might have something to do with the fact that they have trouble managing their own affairs, and there are things that they can do to increase their IQ that are unrelated to genetics because it's not entirely a genetic issue. It has a lot to do with a lot of the other components and problems that they've had over several generations, many of which you pointed out. Right. But it is also a very important factor. And that was the point that I was making.
I got you. So
probably from not eating enough meat.
So the concept of IQ, right? So also you have to take into consideration that the values of different cultures, right? The fact that African cultures don't hold to the same values as the Western world, right? And then you want to give them an IQ test to things that they don't even necessarily give a shit about. I think it's kind of disingenuous. Does it play a role in the economic things that we're talking about? Yeah, maybe so. But you also have to take into consideration why also too. You know what I'm saying? Like, these people are in democracies that they didn't ask for, right? The whole economic system is European, right? These people have cultural differences. So I will grant you that Africans do, but I don't think it's important because we look at the Western world and think it's the most advanced world on the nation technologically speaking. But what if somebody don't want to participate in all of the technology? Does that make them less? I keep saying, hold on, let me land my plane. But my point is, you guys keep talking from an arrogant perspective.
No,
right now,
how do they know
it's
they
IQ,
don't want that,
bro. Don't make me mute you.
That to them?
Okay.
So
the thing is, right? You are acting as if we can take it in consideration. Is it a main factor? No, because you don't know if people want what you're trying to give them in the first place. I don't think nobody is crying that, you know what I'm saying, that they don't have what America has because Europeans won't give it to them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think if we would have left people alone, they would have been just fine the way that they were. But you can't come in, right, industrialize the place, leave, and then keep an economic stronghold on them and then be like, look, they can't take care of themselves. You know what I'm saying? I think that's disingenuous.
I agree that the interventionist foreign policy of European nations and the United States are detrimental to the client states, right? I have no disagreement with that point whatsoever. Like, that's a factual statement from my perspective.
Let me ask you this. You already said you don't think that Africans are inherently inferior IQ wise, right?
Well, no. If there have been studies done on race and IQ, and there are differences between the various races for lots of different historical reasons because of the cultures within which those races come from.
Exactly.
And that's what you're talking about, is the things that were valued by the African culture.
Thank you.
Didn't necessarily lead to higher IQs, but at the same time, it doesn't lead them to be able to take over South Africa and keep that country at the level of civilization that the apartheid government did, which was what GS's point was.
The level that the Western world thinks is the standard, right? Because we're talking about values, right?
Right. And what my point is that I don't really care what Africa does, right? If they want to remove all of the white people and make it a Africa only nation and have their infrastructure crumble as it's done repeatedly when they've kicked out all of the white people because their culture is different than our culture. And so they can't maintain the culture the way that it was before because it will necessarily change if the demographics change, right? It's just like in the United States. We import a lot of people from other countries. The demographics are going to change. The culture is going to change, right? So it's the same thing. It's the same thing, right? I'm not saying one is good or one is bad. I'm just saying that things are going to happen, and that is the way that it is. I think I have a more realist perspective than you do.
You think so? No,
Yeah.
I agree. I agree with what you're saying, but I think it's how you hold the position. You know what I'm saying? I keep going back to the arrogantness of how you say it because these things don't get to the way that they are by accident. You know what I'm saying? And the way that you portray it is just like, it's because the IQ. But if you don't hold the same values and you're not, and the culture is not teaching their kids to go get college and you know what I'm saying, to like value things that are not valued, then it doesn't mean nothing. Well, if a culture doesn't wasn't thinking about being industrialized and you guys come through and industrialize the nation, then you leave and then you say it crumbles, but you know, you guys are over the technology, you're over the money, you're over the everything, then it does, then what you're saying is just not being genuine. So I'm just saying, let's look at it, all of it, and not just act like, you know what I'm saying, things are the way that they are because people are less than, because that's what it sounds like.
I have something I want to read to you guys to kind of put this into perspective. It's some names along with their IQ test. Hjalmar Schacht, Arthur Seyss Inquart, Hyman Goring, Carl Donetz, 143, 141, 138, 138. That's just 4 of the 21 individuals in the Nuremberg trials, okay? Those are very high IQs. The lowest individual at 106 was Julius Streicher. So let me ask you something. Do you believe that these individuals had good qualities about them, considering they were involved in the Nuremberg trials? Bagel. What do you mean bagel? You mean like Jew? What are you, a Jew? What are you, a Jew? Seriously. So are you going to defend the Germans held to account at the Nuremberg trials right now? Is that what you're going to do? You're going to defend them. Go ahead, defend them.
There you go.
Their IQ level.
Just like a typical libtard.
Defend their IQ level.
Just like
Tell
a
me
typical
how they
libtard.
were good
Just
people
like a typical libtard.
by genociding
just like a typical
millions.
libtard.
Who's
It
talking
wasn't
about
just
that?
Jews that were killed. It wasn't just Jews that were killed.
Said.
It was Christians too. But go ahead and defend your German
What did
brothers.
Jeff say before?
Your
Get off
war
the cross,
machine.
Brick.
Go ahead,
We need the
defend
wood.
your war machine.
Get off the cross, Brick.
You
We
war
need the
pig.
wood. We're out of
Promote
wood.
your
Get off the cross,
forced
Brick.
doctrine.
What's
we need
going
the wood.
on?
Your forced doctrine, while I sit here and defend American principles.
How are you going to defend
There's
it
a reason
without
that it was
using
called a
force,
revolution
retard?
and not a
How are
rebellion.
you going to defend it without
How
force,
about
retard?
revolution instead of defending? How about you just not interrupt somebody instead of spurging? Why are you spurging on me?
So
You
fucking
retard,
stupid, dude.
You're a
How are you going to
retard.
defend it without
You're
using
a
force?
retard. You don't know
this
how to
is
shut
all-
up.
This is all like all
You don't know
TOS
how to shut
violations.
up.
Everything you
I'm
just did was
sitting
this
here
massive
making
TOS
a valid
violation.
point. I'm making
Shut
a
up,
valid
libtard.
point, and you want to stop me from speaking.
Well, how are you going to stop me
You
from
want to stop
stopping
me.
you?
You want
How
to
are you
put your
going to
hands
stop
on
me
me
from stopping
because I
you?
said some bad words about some military fuckwats?
Do you guys want to actually try to have this conversation? Are y'all really interested in having this conversation? Are you just want to argue?
He's not. He's not. He wants to talk over me. Go ahead, GS. I'll let you get the floor.
Oh,
Spurred.
hold on, man.
So I have one question. How are
Spurred.
you gonna stop
Spurred.
me? See, there you go.
Come and get it then. Come and get it, boy. Come and get it. I dare you. I dare you. Come and get it. You won't. You won't. You'll sit there in your fucking basement and be a little bitch.
Nobody ever said that people with high IQs are better than other people. I never made that claim.
Straw man.
But GS is going to sit here and defend those Germans held to account at the Nuremberg trials.
Wow, you like literally set up a bunch of dominoes, flip them over, and blame me for them falling.
You're sitting
such
there calling
moron,
me a bagel. You're calling me a bagel. I'm not a bagel.
You're a bagel.
Bro, I'm not a
100%
fucking
a bagel.
Jew, dude. I'm not a.
Well, I didn't say you're a Jew. I said you're a
not
bagel.
Christian either.
So I want to ask you guys. I don't think
He's not a
nobody can
bagel
follow
either,
the
you idiot.
conversation. I think you guys are having a personal conversation that
Yeah, we
nobody
are a
else is
little bit.
kind of like
GS went off on me
privy
just
to.
now.
So if you guys want to relive it somewhere else, but like if you want to hash it out, we can hash it out. We can tease it out. I'll moderate it, but nobody knows what the fuck you guys are talking about because we aren't privy to the previous conversation. GS said he wanted to ask a question. Do you mind letting him ask the question, or do you want to let somebody else talk? What are we doing right now?
I can do that. I just wanted to make a point that IQ is not a valid way to describe good in principle.
And nobody made that claim.
Yeah, exactly. Straw man after straw man. I'm going to
No,
ask.
Somebody did.
So what was the point of the claim then?
I thought I could ask a question. What are you?
Well, actually,
woman?
because I wasn't even addressing you. I wasn't addressing you in it. It was Anson who brought up IQ.
On the panel.
You want
actually,
to defend this IQ shit, bro? You
right.
are so stupid.
Can I
Anson was the one I was addressing, not you.
Can I ask
you?
Him
are
the
bitch in this. Shut the fuck up and allow Anson to respond.
How
about that?
Can I ask him
all right.
question?
All right.
May I ask this gentleman over here a question?
You could, or you could allow Anson to respond.
Dude. You sound like an ex-girlfriend.
I did respond. I never made the claim that there was any sort of moral component to IQ. You've started down this whole line of trying to make claims that I said that in some way by your story about all those people that stood trial. And I was just talking about like industrialization and the impacts that would have on a specific continent related to the IQ that's been studied statistically and how that could impact their culture, right? Like I was trying to make fact-based claims based on information that's been studied. I wasn't saying that one group of people is better or worse than the other. I was just trying to have a conversation.
Yeah, and I can understand that.
I left a minute ago.
Hold on, James. Let them finish.
Hold on, because
no, you hold on, James. Let them finish the conversation, James, hold on. Let them finish, and I'll bring you right in. It's all good.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Yep. I can appreciate that, Anson, and understanding that point is very important for me because when we're having this conversation and I bring that up, my point isn't exactly necessarily good or bad, even though I mentioned that. My point is that their society did fall eventually. And these were the individuals that were held to account.
Okay. Whenever societies fall, the victor always, gets to determine what the narrative is depending upon who won the war. And so that's the narrative that you've been fed. And apparently you've been indoctrinated very, very successfully. Congratulations.
What narrative would that be?
Whatever the narrative is of the victors that they wanted you to have.
So you don't know my narrative.
You stated your narrative.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain based on the context of the things that you've said that I understand what your worldview is based on.
So what is my worldview?
Your world that the people who lost World War II were morally inferior to the people.
No, that's not it at all.
Okay, then what is it?
Even though I mentioned that was a jab at GS because he wanted to interrupt and be a retard. But my point is this: that eventually, what will happen is an individual nation who goes at this idea of I'm just going to take. Eventually, they will fall, and just basing the idea that they're smarter, their IQ is higher, that's a fallacy. That's my point.
Never made that claim either. I was
I understand that.
Oh man,
I understand. Stop it, GS. You're being a fucking retard.
How are you going to stop me without
stop it, dude?
Yeah, I want to hear from the guy on the bottom left because he's been waiting patiently. What you got to say, man?
Oh, let me say,
retard, doofus. Why don't you go try to force me to do something then, GS? Stop being a little bitch. Do it. You said you'd do it. Come and get me. You said it.
No, I said, how are you going to stop me, you fucking
Come and
idiot?
get it. I'm not stopping you. Come and get it.
All right. Let's let James ask this question. All right. You guys can't. I'm gonna have to separate you and GS. I cannot have a conversation. So James, go ahead and answer the question.
Well, I put a link in the side chat over here in the back chat someone was questioning the intelligence of African people. So I specifically came back to share that it was actually some little girls that did a mathematical, solved the mathematical. See, now he's shaking his head like, yeah.
Just make the point. Just make the point. Just make the point.
Well, it was some actually two young Louisiana African American girls that solved a mathematical equation that they said was impossible to solve. So that just proves or disproves the fact that they said that African people are less intelligent than anyone else.
So the point that they were making is that statistically people speaking, European demographics and a couple other demographics have a higher IQ than Africans. But to your point, I do agree that don't mean that they are substantially or innately superior. We already made the point that there are different cultural differences that kind of can contribute to that also.
I don't think they conceded that point, though.
Oh, I did.
Well, he made that point. He actually made that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got
from Louisiana,
listen, Linda.
So
David Wayne, do you have any? You've been sitting on the panel quietly. Do you got anything to contribute?
I just Claire, did you say they were from Louisiana, bub?
Yes, sir.
So it's interesting. So you believe some Hollywood script like Wakanda, right? And Anson just pointed out that the winners get to rewrite history any way they want to. So the fanciful fiction of DEI was, what about the telemetry data? What did David Pettit, the white guy from NASA, the spokesperson, say? It's a I'd go back to the moon in a nanosecond, but it's a painful process to bring back all the telemetry data. Why don't they just dig up those old black ladies? It should be easy math for them to recreate the telemetry data to get us back to the moon, genius.
Are you doing the moon thing again? That's
holy crap. I'm quoting a guy from NASA. What, are you got to criticize that now? Those are his exact words. So you're telling me a Casio computer got us to the moon, but now with a smartphone that has more technology than the entire space station did at the entire infrastructure of NASA at the time can't get us to the moon somehow? Yeah, I can't even go 15 fucking meters away from my Wi-Fi signal without losing connection. But we had an uninterrupted signal from the moon. Oh, you sound like a boomer, dude.
Bro, that's such a fallacy. You're a retard.
Sound like a boomer. Shut the fuck up.
You sound like a retard.
Go get a job, you moron. Stop leeching off
equivalency fallacy. You're a retard.
So, every time they use the R slur, it dings your TOS. You realize that?
No,
right?
it's not.
It does.
Well, hold on. Let me ask GS a question.
Just please refrain from using it, please.
I can do this.
GS, do you believe it that is satellites in orbit? I'm just trying to figure out where you're at. You're saying NASA, like maybe it might be impossible to leave.
I'm sorry, I thought you asked me a question. You want to answer it?
Okay, go ahead.
I believe they're satelloons. NASA is the largest purveyor of helium on Earth.
So how are we on the internet? Like, were you thinking just fiber optics?
It's cables. The vast majority is cables and towers. Yeah.
No, I'm just asking a question. I'm not trying to be malice or anything. I think you and whatever the guy in the bottom right must got something going on that I'm not privy to. But I mean, some of the stuff that you guys say is not in line with actual science and history of modern times. Like, y'all talk about how primitive Africa is without acknowledging the dudes trying to say that it's some of the reasonings is why they are behind.
You're a victim, right? You're a victim. No, I heard that. I've heard that. That'll make the fifth time I've heard you're a victim.
Are you putting words in his mouth right now?
Listen to what I'm saying.
Not to do to
what I'm saying is, you act like that it's not possible for a country that may have wanted to be in their own cultural thing, and then they finally wind up realizing that, hey, I'm behind in history and I need to catch up. So let's give an instance of China. China was closed for centuries. They seen that they were getting technologically behind, and guess what China's at right now? So it's not like Africa cannot do the same thing, is what I'm trying to get you to understand. We may be the last one to the party, but that don't mean that it can't be in the future. That
congratulations. Here's your fucking participation trophy.
Okay, yeah. So now everything is then. I don't know what your problem is.
I don't have a fucking problem. Go fucking
it seems like
be about living or get busy dying, dude.
No, well,
dude.
it's actually going on right now because you can look at what's going on in the Sahel of Africa right now.
You sound like a
look
breakup.
Well, maybe you're not geopolitically aware of what's going on in the world right now.
Too many low-T men in the world. That's the problem.
Off in the past.
Everybody but you, right, GS?
What's going on right now, GS?
You sound low-T.
What's going on in the So what is going on in the Sahel right
now?
Okay, GS. What's going on in the Sahel right now? What's going on in the Sahel? Do you know?
Dude, I don't even understand the Ebonics you're speaking, bro.
He's talking about the region.
I'm talking in
I think I heard a click and a whistle in there somewhere. What the fuck are you doing?
So now it's insults when I'm talking in American English, the same language that you speak.
That's English?
Yes.
That's
it's not British English. You do it.
Yeah, British English is pretty art-hearted, right?
No, he sounds like he's from Alabama.
That's the source of your people. So you're talking about yourself.
Yeah.
Make the point. Make the point.
What's your point, dude? Land the plane.
Point is that while you're subjugating people that may not have had a start that you're at right now, it does not mean that you will be. It does not mean that you are going to stay in this position forever, like the gentleman on the bottom right is trying to tell.
Who said
you think that Europeans started?
Who said that? Who made that argument?
The first one. Hold on,
who made that argument? Who did? I never made it.
You said that Africans in history couldn't build a building 2 stories high, but Africans
is that true? Is that true or false? Is that true or false?
Absolutely false.
Well, hold on. Do you know that the pyramid is? Would you call the pyramid?
Are you talking about a ziggurat?
No, I'm talking about a pyramid.
Wait, you're saying Egyptians or Africans?
The largest structure on the planet for millennia was built by Africans before you even built anything.
You're fucking delusional, dude.
Let him make the point. Let him make the point, GS.
Land the fucking plane, dude. Sometime today, Junior.
That's all you can say is fuck off. You speak that intelligent.
Hold on. Let me build you a well. Let me build you a well so you can get a drink because your mouth is probably dry because you've been running it the whole time. So let me teach you how to get some water out of an old well.
Brothers on the planet. Do you think that anything I'm saying is infactual? From countering what he said that you Africans couldn't build a building 2 stories high. Then I bring up the pyramids, which was the highest building structure on the planet that was built by Africans. Now he has nothing to say.
By the way, it's unfactual, retards, not infactual.
What's not factual about the Africans built the pyramids?
What's
not factual about that?
I already told you it's a category error. If you think Egyptians are Africans, you're a moron.
So if anybody is learning from this guy, they should stop.
Right. Why don't you teach us about how you're a victim? Why don't you teach us about how you're a victim?
Ego stroking or anything.
Tell me about how you're a victim.
I thought that we were supposed to be coming on the panel to have a discussion and maybe be adults and talk about
the very second you got on the panel, you said the white man's evil because he's good at war. I just said, what did I say? Get good at war.
I agree with you, GS. We do need to go ahead and stop PSing and take our shit back.
Dude, you're fucking insane, dude. You're officially insane.
I agree with you.
You really are insane, bro.
No, I'm not insane. I agree with what you said. You said the Africans need to get good at war and take their shit back. I agree with you, GS.
So, Brick, where you at? Can you actually address any GS or anybody else on the panel? You know what I'm saying? Without the contention. Yeah, I like the contention, by the way. Like we can get into it, but you're gonna have to let me moderate. I just don't like it to be to where it's just chaotic.
No, that's
and in the words of Chairman Coom.
That's right. I'm the Coom Emperor. Don't forget it.
Right.
I can do that, and it's just something that just doesn't need to be here anyway, unless someone wants it here, then I can do it. But no, the idea that for some reason people, I don't understand why people would believe that someone who can build a structure can't build it more than 1 story high. That seems fallacious on its face. Just on its face.
Not really.
But then on top of that, you look at structures, very ancient structures that are actually in that or on that continent. They are much higher than even 2 stories. And then, yeah, I mean, there is evidence, but let's say that, just for instance, some places close to the equator don't have structures that are higher than 1 story. Let's just go with that.
So, Brick,
could there be a reason?
No, but let's say there's not a reason. What the fuck does it matter? Does that mean that they're dumb? Like, you know what I'm saying? Because a society chooses not to build over 2 stories doesn't mean that they can't. You know what I'm saying? Like, it may not be a necessity. You know what I mean? So, like, the point that he was making, I understand what he's saying, but I don't agree with it. I agree with you and James that it's really neither here nor there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because if you don't have the necessity to build over 2 stories, then so the fuck what? It doesn't mean you are less than, which is the point that he was trying to make.
Yeah, and to say that because I'm not good at war, that now I don't deserve not only my stuff or my family, but I also don't deserve to live. That's pretty stinking. What, like, what are you, a sadist? Are you a masochist? Are you sadistic? That's pretty evil. It's pretty stinking evil.
If you're not gonna fight for your family, who are you gonna appeal to fight on your behalf? Other men to use force?
Hold on, because you guys get contentious.
I just
GS
my hand and waited for him to fucking. I'm done, dude. Fuck off.
We'll be done. I don't know what you're getting all bent out of shape for. I was just going to moderate it because whenever you guys engage, it gets contentious, and I don't want it to do that. Don't throw a hissy fit, bro. I was going to ask you, is that your position that people that aren't good at war, you believe that they don't deserve to live? Like, because that's what his claim was towards you.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. Once again, fucking libtards taking my words, jumbling them around and making some word salad nonsense. I'm still waiting for an answer. Who do you appeal to protect your rights? Absent a right is an entitlement absent of duty.
So you didn't make the claim. You didn't make the claim that he's making. Okay, so now
I never made the fucking claim. Once again, I'm tired.
Brick, he said that he didn't even make that damn.
There's so much bad faith right now. It's ridiculous. So much fucking bad faith going on.
I'm sorry that I have to moderate you guys because I don't want it to become a fucking shit show. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to stand in between you guys, but you guys can't converse, so I got to stand in between you two. You know what I'm saying? If you guys can converse, I'll let you converse, but I don't want it to be a shit show because nobody can hear shit. GS, ask your question to Brick. Brick, let him finish.
Dude, I've asked it 3 fucking times. He hasn't figured it out by now.
Will you reiterate, please?
No, I'm not. I don't like fucking repeating myself.
All right,
myself. Move on to the next bullshit. I'm not gonna get your little fucking drama. Fucking stream,
what's
dude.
going on, dude?
Fucking gay ass shit.
So, what? Brick and GS, I thought you guys was like buddies. Like, I don't know what the fuck happened between you guys, but I remember that was your right hand man not too long ago. Fight. And then, like, the people in the chat is on GS for some reason. Like, it's something that I don't know what's going on between GS and. But anyway, Anson, can you bring us back full circle to anything? Is it something that you want to bring to the surface that wasn't addressed, or do you want to take it somewhere else? Like,
well, like. There was conversation mostly about the continent of Africa, but that's unrelated to our culture because you and I have more in common than either one of us have in common with anyone in Africa, really, in terms of our culture and our worldview. And I honestly, you really touched on what I thought was the most important part of this conversation, which is that there's a system in place that exists to keep people like you and I ideologically at each other's throats. And it is important for us to recognize that because we have a common enemy and it is not each other. It's definitely the people who control the central reserve banking system and the people who are running our economy because they want us all to focus on how we dislike each other instead of them stealing our money from us. That includes my money. And it's actually more important than this conversation to talk about that. And anyway, I just like I'm from Alabama, right? Like I've been the only white kid in the room. I don't know how many times. And like I have no racial animosity, even though I was raised to be a bigot. It's something that I overcame, and I really don't think that it's actually anything other than a learned behavior that, and the start of it is pride, and that's why I kept focusing on pride so much, is because that's the thing that leads people down the path of self-deception.
No, that is very insightful, and I struggle with that, right? Because because pride, on one hand, if you have too much of it, it can be a negative thing. I will submit to that. You know what I'm saying? So, but I don't think that pride is something that people shouldn't have, because if people don't have pride about certain aspects of themselves, then you'll let other people play with you in ways that are not, that you shouldn't. So that's why I'm kind of like in the middle. But I really understand that you're saying, yes, pride and too much pride can be detrimental. You know what I'm saying? But
right.
I just
well, I think that we don't appreciate the change that's happened in Western civilization over the past few hundred years because we were born into it, right? And there was a point in time when the behaviors of the hyper individualism that we're expressing would have been considered disgusting, because it would have been understood that we were supposed to be living for a higher purpose and not for our own gratification. And we're all guilty of that sort of misplaced pride, where we're elevating our own pleasure over the next generation. And that's somewhat what I think GS was trying to get to with his marshmallow analogy, right? If you're focused on your own comfort, then you're not going to be focused on your grandchildren's generation, right?
But the thing is,
and that's what pride does.
The thing is, when you say your own, right? We talk about the American perspective, right? And it's still like, it outcasts others, because every continent has their own agenda. You know what I'm saying? So it still puts people at odds. So I agree with what you're saying, but there's always going to be conflict. We're talking about, the American, conflicts, with the demographics and within America, the national, and then you have the world conflicts, to where you have different nations at conflict. And the point that I was making, at the end of the day, it's always a battle of ideologies, right? And if we're not under one ideology, right, the one race, you know what I'm saying, then I feel like there's always going to be friction unless we can get past it. So I'm not at odds with what you're saying, but I'm just trying to put another layer on there. Go ahead.
No, I just I don't have much to add. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts, but they're not coherent. I'm actually just workshopping some ideas about pride that I have. So that's a lot. It's actually my specific interest, something that I've been thinking about for years.
I think we should keep teasing out pride, because that's my issue. Also, I do have an issue with pride too. Like I said, I'm conflicted in my heart with pride, because like you said, too much pride can be detrimental, but not enough pride, you'll let somebody do something to you. I don't agree with the term like turn the other cheek. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you have integrity, pride about yourself, you won't stand for certain things. Like, if you have pride, you know what I'm saying, you just won't let certain things happen. You know what I'm saying? So you have to have a certain level of it. Do you agree?
No, I disagree, because turning the other cheek.
Well, hold on. That's not equivalent to pride. Okay, but let's take the pride. Do you agree that you have to have a certain level of pride, or do you think pride should be non-existent? Pride isn't necessary. Pride isn't something that's needed.
I think it depends on the context, but that our culture has elevated to the point where we feel at a higher level of pride as our baseline than what we should to have a enduring culture. Right. That's why.
And I agree, because that is the whole crux of the nationalist perspective, because the nationalist and the patriotic perspective at the base of that It's pride.
Yeah.
Go ahead, GS.
How about just instead of calling it pride? Because listen, I know your worldview is not mine. Pride goeth before the fall. How about I agree. If we change it, maybe can we agree self-respect? No.
I mean,
have enough self-respect to want to defend you, your family, your way of life. Having
the other
pride in
cheek.
it, yeah, having pride in it could be very dangerous. I think, right?
Yes, it could be.
Because that's how you, if you're proud of your heritage, that means you think potentially other heritages need to be done away with or assimilate or be cast out or punished or destroyed. I think that's where the danger can come. I think maybe.
No, I think that's a good point. And like I said earlier, my position, right, is reactionary to like what's going on in the world. So take for instance, me personally, I take pride in my heritage and where I'm from is because I feel some type of way that it got erased out of my ancestors' mind. You know what I'm saying? And that's hard for me to get past.
Amen.
You know what I'm saying? So I do hold on to that because of that reason. Like you're not taking that from me. You know what I'm saying? Now, that is detrimental. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, right? Now let me flip the coin. There are certain people that don't want you to have pride because then you won't fight for, you know, you won't be opposition. So where's that fine line? You know what I'm saying? Because certain people will say, yeah, we all one people, but they don't really believe that in their heart. But if I can get you to believe that, then you won't fight against me, right? Because that's a strategy also.
Yeah, it's placation. It's making someone almost docile, right? It's a dociling effect, right? Like, I mean, if I were trying to control the world, as Chamber had said earlier, right? If we agree that there is an elite, whatever name you want to put on, just people haves and have nots, we'll put it that way, I guess. If we agree that there is an elite out there, do you not think that they have a vested interest in us not wanting to attack them? So thus they put out a book like the Bible. It says, oh, well, you should forgive your enemy. You should feed them if they're hungry. You should give them water. But meanwhile, the people that are in charge will treat you a horrible, horrible way. Now, I happen to agree the Bible principles is the way that's the world I would like to live on. Right. I would like it to be that way. But I think Dew is arguing it ain't that way. And sometimes you gotta drag a mofo behind, and deal with them. Otherwise they're going to drag you and deal with you. So that goes back to my original question.
That's your point too.
Yeah, so that goes back to my original question. If you're this, like, I don't believe in force kind of mentality, listen, it's a perfectly fine ideology, but how do you enforce it?
Yeah, and I think that you're misunderstanding my definition of what pride is, because self defense and having a understanding of your own personal history and your ancestors, and having an appreciation of those who came before you and the traditions of the people that came before you, that is not prideful, right? That having that understanding and knowledge of where you come from is definitely not something. But using the accomplishments of your ancestors or the history and culture of your ancestors to legitimize actions that you're taking today, if they're not rooted in some sort of tradition that has values that are, I guess, based in reason. If your ancestors were the people that, I don't have like an emotional attachment to my European ancestors that lived in thatch huts, right? Because that would be kind of absurd, right? And so from my perspective, like if you go a shorter period back in time, like your ancestors would be those kind of people. And if you have like an affinity for that kind of culture, like I'm not exactly sure what that looks like, because that's so foreign to me. And I actually find it kind of interesting that would have.
I don't have an affinity for the culture. I have an emotional attachment because of what happened in the past. Excuse me, Anson, but it's not the culture in and of itself, but it's the historical aspect of it. Me personally, I can't speak for everybody else, but me personally.
Yeah. Right. And so just to kind of piggyback off of that, when we talk about
let Anson let his plane.
I landed it. I just kind of wanted to understand how that
Yeah.
that worldview kind of worked with you.
Yeah, it's not a cultural aspect. It's the fact that I don't want I resent what happened in the past. I still hold it in my heart. You
Oh,
know,
you got to let go of that, bro. That'll eat you up, man.
and it has. But you know, I don't think that it's not. I don't think that is not valid though. You know what I'm saying? Like if something happened to your grandfather or great grandfather, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, especially as far as like genocide is concerned and slavery, I don't want to really go there, but you'll feel some type of way about it. You'll hold some type of resentment. And that stuff is hard to like, you know, pass through. Like take for instance, like people would never tell the Jews to forget the Holocaust. People would never tell the Native Americans to forget what happened to them. But for some reason, when it comes to Black African Americans, people like forget that. But I don't never hear them say that to the Jews. The Jews' slogan is like never forget. You know what I'm
They're
saying?
talking.
But so shit
They're
is
talking
kind of weird.
now.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But I hear what you're saying.
Well, the Romans enslaved my people. Should I be holding a grudge for that?
I don't know. It's just something that I struggle with.
It's the same thing, right? Holding on to something that happened in history and attaching like that kind of an emotional grip on your current life. I think that's misplaced, right? Like the same thing with the examples you gave, right? Like people who use the atrocities that happened to their ancestors to legitimize some sort of resentment that they have today. Like that is something that will necessarily lead to tribalism and friction between the races, and it won't be something that brings us together.
Indeed. Shelby is hot, by the way.
Yeah, no, I don't think so, man. But I definitely turned the other cheek with her.
David Wayne, did you want to say something?
Yeah, in regards of the way I don't know what to say because it's TOS, but the guy that ordered all this stuff to take place,
the funny little guy with the mustache, is that
yeah, it's
the guy with the funny little mustache?
People are making running jokes these days, you know, that he wasn't that bad of a guy, and it's slap, you know, we don't never hear them asking for reparations or any kind of recovery program or, you know, anything. It's a seed that was planted before any of us was born. Look, this is the main point here. We can't fall victim to our For You page. Okay. Let me give you an analogy. You know, we're watching police officers slaughter people without any kind of weapons or anything, but their For You page on their YouTube is showing officers dying on duty. You feel me?
That's a fact.
We got to pay attention and not let that. We need to deal with us right now. We need to fucking give each other a hug right now. Don't worry about none of that stuff. We can get along. We can't fall. They want us they want us broken. They want us broke up.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, the only breaking up that I see that could be beneficial, and that's just a humor, is whatever's going on between GS and Brick. But look, I'll get this. I do turn the other cheek. I fail daily at being a Christian, but I do try to walk that walk, and I turn the other cheek. But I've only got two. And you know, Jesus threw a table. So, you know, if you're standing in the way and I've burned out both my cheeks, I don't know what to tell you. But that's it. Indeed. That's my mic drop.
I want to translate because I think due diligence might have been lost on what you're saying about the For You page. Were you picking up what he's putting down? Like if I go to X, my algorithm shows me a bunch of people that look like me getting beat up by people that look like you. If you go to it, it's just going to show you a bunch of people look like me doing horrible things to people look like you. We get caught up in our For You page. Well, who's the For You algorithm masters? That would be what Chambers talking about. The people that want us looking at each other and not at who the enemy is, whoever that is. I don't know who it is. Probably a saddle loon up there with a big spy camera on top of it, full of helium.
Politicians.
So GS, just to clarify, Chambers of Logic is not me. That's that liberal guy that came up here with the reverb mic. I'm chairman of the board.
Chairman. Sorry about that. Chairman.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right.
Yeah. He's Chambers is that he thought he had to be on a different account. He couldn't be on his normal Steelman account.
So I want everybody to get a last words. I have to go to work in the morning, so I appreciate you guys for coming.
Humble brag. Humble brag.
You know what I'm saying? GS.
Yeah, just thanks for the opportunity. I'm sorry that Brick was spurging out, and he'll try to be better next time.
Indeed. Anson.
Dude, you got a debate coming up on my channel, man. What day is that? Is that supposed to be on Sunday?
I believe it is Sunday, sir.
Yeah, Sunday night at 9 p.m.
Yes, sir.
Central time. I'm gonna get the thumbnail up pretty soon. You're gonna be debating Emmett on whether or not sucking dick is gay, right?
Absolutely, and I agree that it is, and he's against it.
Yeah.
Look at David.
No, seriously, what's your prompt, dude?
The prompt is God the creator of morality? Does morality come from God or man?
There you go. That's it. That's the prompt. So tune into my channel, the chairman of the board, to watch Due Diligence.
Drop it in the chat so people can.
Yeah, I'll do that. But yeah, thanks for having me up, man. It was nice tonight. It's the first time I've ever watched your channel, to be honest with you. I didn't know quite what to expect. Wasn't expecting to see GS up here. I've actually watched him a whole lot and not interacted with him very much. Right. And he doesn't realize how much I've watched him. So
it's a pleasure, man. It's been a pleasure talking to you tonight.
Yeah.
And I learned from you too as well.
Oh, cool.
David Wayne.
So I appreciate the opportunity. Nice to meet you. I'm definitely going to be there for that morality show. I've got my own opinions there, and I might spurg out myself on that one. But thanks for the opportunity. It's nice to meet you. There was something else I was going to say, but that'll pop up here about 3 a.m. when I'm trying to sleep, and I'll be like, crap, that's what I was going to say. But yeah, no mic drop on this one. I love everybody, and I mean it until you make me not.
Amen.
Brick.
Thanks, dude. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you also, sir. Brick.
Oh, what's up, brother, man? Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me up on the panel. It's a good conversation revolving around whether white nationalism is valid. I would say in a legal sense, like, would we apply it to the law here in the United States in any form or fashion? Short of being free to believe what you want to believe, no, it's not valid in that sense. But in regards to force doctrine, which is the issue that GS and I have, I would say peace over force. A lot of people believe that force is the only answer, the end answer, but peace, I happen to know, is the end of all matters. That's why they say on the tombstone, rest in peace. And so I would say peace to all. And I would certainly hope that all of my brothers in humanity exercise their God-given rights and promote peace. So thank you, Due Diligence.
Peace. With that being said, I want to thank all the guests for coming up and participating. I want to thank everybody that showed up in the chat, and drop some comments, whether you agreed or not, or whether you was for the position or against the position. And I think that this show was not about being for or against. I think it was just kind of just hashing it out. And I think when we talked to the guys on the panel, even the so-called Europeans were like, whose fucking position is this? You know what I'm saying? They didn't hold these values, right? So then we have to ask ourselves, like people from the other side, people like me, right? And I say the other side because is there really a other side? Because whenever I talk to guys that's supposed to be against me, they don't sound like they're against me. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like the conversation was progressive and constructive if you got anything out of it. I think there were a lot of good things said, a whole lot of good things said, right? I don't want to be a victim, you know what I'm saying? But we do have to deal with the reality of conquest, you know what I'm saying? But that is the reality, right? People need to act accordingly no matter what's going on in the world. My name is Due Diligence. I appreciate you guys for showing up. This is the principles. Peace.